All right, welcome to the Sae Bae cast, number 156 with Saxerpillar. Saxerpillar, how are we doing this fine evening for you? Afternoon for me.
We are chilling. I was excited. Kind of nervous, but slowly getting over it already, like you said.
Yeah, as soon as it starts. Let's get I guess, like a brief introduction of who you are, and maybe some notable achievements, because you've definitely had one in particular that was pretty big. So I guess I'll give you the mic.
All right. Yeah, hi. I'm Saxerpillar. I've been playing this game for, I think, about 4 years now. I also played as a kid. I think I've been into PvM for like maybe 3 years. I'd say I've been considering myself a high-level PvMer since I got into CG speedrunning for GM, looking at Kirby's guides and like slowly improving myself, and then I decided like I wanted to do more challenges. I've been good friends with No Monkey. That's where like people generally know me from. I hang out in his streams a lot, and I was in his Discord for a long time. From there, I kind of just like branched out and started doing my own thing. I'm not really a streamer. I tried a couple times, but I can't really seem to get myself to do something specifically. Like, I just can't concentrate long enough, or I can't stay motivated long enough. Like, it gets boring eventually.
Mm-hmm. Feel that.
Yeah, achievements. Well, there was the Akkha butterfly method that I'd like to say I kind of figured out.
How soon after release did you figure that out? Because that was pretty game changing, and it was about to get patched.
It was, yeah, it got patched like a couple days after it was popularized. Like I released it on Gnome's stream. I was like actually torn between releasing it or not. And then I was like, if I don't release it, somebody else is gonna figure it out, and they're gonna tell it before me. So
yeah,
I thought I might as well get my spotlight, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was like literally 4 days after release that I just went into the lab. Everybody was trying to get clears. I just wanted to figure shit out.
Hell yeah, that was game changing. That's like literally. I mean, obviously, like you said, it would have been figured out regardless by somebody eventually. Yeah. But that is a game changing mechanic for the room. So shout out.
Yeah, I was pretty happy. It was really busted when it like first figured it out too, because like before the patch, you would just be able to do it indefinitely without anything else happening in the room. So it was pretty powerful. Like there would be no special attacks, there would be no style changes as long as you didn't screw up.
So are you happy with what they decided to do with it? Because originally I believe they were trying to patch the whole thing, but then they decided to keep it with added mechanics.
I'm like kind of happy. I think it's like the fact that it can do special every 60 seconds is a good compromise. I don't like the random style changes though. I feel like style changes should only happen if you get hit by Akkha, not when like it does specials, because you can't really control your DPS, right? So yeah. Like especially in like high skill raids with like multiple people, it's like you might get like 5 or 6 style changes, and then your room time will vary significantly because like every other style is bad on Akkha except for magic. Yeah, max gear and stuff.
That would pretty much fix everything if they just remove that, correct? That's what you're thinking?
Yeah. Akkha would be a much more tolerable room if they just did that, for sure. That's the only real frustration about it. You get a good time on like in a speed run or whatever you're doing, and then you're like, oh, it changed to melee. I have to wait for like however many attacks, whatever Akkha feels like today.
Yeah. It's so bad.
Yeah. Other than that, I just recently got a solo next clear. That was some exciting stuff.
Yeah,
I was really nervous during that.
Let's actually just like straight up take a tangent on that, because that is something that we didn't really think was possible. At least after Port Kazar did it on like, was that week of release? Like, when did he do that?
Week of release. I think I had his tweet pulled up. It was like, yeah, I think it was literally within a week.
Here, you want to link that to me actually?
Sure.
Pull it up on my end.
Probably in my videos. I'll just find the tweet. He doesn't tweet much, so it's like you can literally scroll down in his Twitter and find it.
That's true. I could do that. But so for those that aren't aware of how big of an effect Red-X had, like what are the differences between him soloing next and what you have to do to solo next at this point, and what you had to do and come up with?
So let me quickly give a disclaimer and say I love Portkazard. He's my buddy, and I'm not discrediting him in any way. Like he is a well-established PvMer and is like really good at the game. So when I say this, like I'm not saying like it to discredit his achievement or anything. But when he did solo next, there were like 2 bugs in play. One of them was that there was the door right at the lobby, like the door that you clicked that you need to sacrifice essence to. When you entered an instance, you could left click that door to interact with it. And you could use that to set up a Red-X, which people should be familiar with now with Baba. Which essentially meant if you were under the boss, it would not move. And then the other bug was if Nex couldn't attack you for a while, her default behavior is to dash somewhere, just so, you know, she can get out from under you. So you can't just kite her indefinitely. But the way this worked before the patch was she would always dash to the middle. Even if she was in the middle of the arena, she would dash to the middle. Essentially meaning if you were in a solo scale, she couldn't ever swap targets. And she would always dash to the middle, and you're always under her. So you could literally, like I'm not even exaggerating saying this, you could AFK under her for 6 hours until you log out. And nothing would happen.
Okay, so massive differences. What is it like now if you stand under her?
Now she'll, after 9 to 12 ticks, which is probably what it was back then as well, 9 to 12 ticks after she attacks, she will, she'll dash to like a semi-random position. It's not entirely random, and that's part of what made this possible again. Just figuring out like the patterns, the different ways she can dash. She'll dash anywhere where it will still put her within like range of attacking you immediately, pretty much.
And what I've seen, and like watching your video and watching No Monkey do solo attempts, it looks pretty difficult to, not like extremely difficult, but you have to be on the ball nonstop when you're trying to stay underneath Nex. I mean, you have a 1 tick margin of error consistently.
Yeah. In terms of like standard PvM, I don't think it's very comparable to any other challenge that exists. It's just like a unique kind of movement challenge. I don't think there's any other boss that really forces you to move that much.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Was that difficult to pick up and maintain for an entire kill?
Oh yeah, I mean, mainly in hindsight, nothing is hard, I feel like, but like whenever you're doing something like this, at least for me especially, 50% of difficulty comes from the nerves, like the expectation. Oh shit, this is the first solo Nex. What am I gonna do? Like the first time I got to Ice Phase, I remember I was like shaking. I was shaking so hard I couldn't stop for like 40 minutes. I'm a really nervous person.
It just reminds me of like early childhood, walking into the wilderness and just chronically
yeah,
just
literally
shaking.
same feeling.
Yeah, just jittering.
Same feeling.
That's funny. So how many days, how many attempts did this take? Actually, like let's just say from the conception of the idea, because I don't think many people were considering doing solo Nex. They kind of wrote it off as like not possible.
So the idea goes back as early as like next release, pretty much. I'd say like maybe 2 or 3 months after I was starting to think about it. And I'm sure like many other people also thought about it. I don't think there's like much that's special about Nex. It's just that since people wrote it off, they didn't put in the time and effort to just go through the, like, I don't think I did anything special for the theory crafting. There were some breakthroughs that made me feel like it was more possible, but generally I feel like if somebody writes something off, people just don't attempt it. Like you just take whatever you hear for granted in the game, like whether it's like gear advice or somebody telling you something is possible in a scale or whatever. But yeah, attempts like I'd say realistically, I started attempting it like for a month or so.
Okay.
Like actually like going hard at it, like trying to figure out things, dying over and over, etc.
Were you in talk with any other PvMers, or was this kind of a solo venture?
Beforehand I was like we always talked about the possibility of a solo next. I talked with Port Kazard. I'd mentioned to a bunch of other friends. Like I talked about it with Red Eye Jedi as well. I remember he was actually trying as well. Mulgar Kirby was trying. They all just pretty much like wrote it off. I think Red Eye Jedi said he was going to try after Colosseum, but I kind of beat him to it, I guess.
Interesting. So yeah. You were the first post update, and now who has completed it since? I know there's been a few people.
I don't know if there's anybody else besides Noob Type did it right after me, and then No Monkey did like 2 or 3, I think.
Okay, because he's now trying to speed run it. I think
yeah.
I don't know
he's
exactly.
Trying to get like a sub 20.
Yeah, that's nuts. So, because yours was how fast?
43 minutes.
Yeah, so speeding it up. I mean, everything. I mean, if people take it seriously, it will be optimized. Do you have a number in your head of like how fast you could possibly get this? Like, is there like a minimum time that this would take?
I think sub 20 is a reasonable time. The thing is, a good bit of time is going to be added since you can't keep up DPS with the boss, since it has to like keep dashing. Like your Fang is not 5 tick.
Mm-hmm.
And then a standard duo I feel like is like 7 to 8 minutes. So a solo you would expect like just to be 16, but then there's some added time from it dashing and stuff.
Okay, so like
20 minutes is reasonable, I think.
Okay. And that would be almost like if you were a total Giga gamer that never makes mistakes, do you think that would be like a reasonable expectation for like kills to be around 20 minutes consistently? Or is that relying heavily on RNG?
I think it relies on RNG. I can't say too much. I don't know. I have only done that one kill that I did. And from what I watched Gnome do, it's like it's hard to get a kill as it is. Like you can't consistently get kills. I don't know.
Is it RNG that's preventing consistent kills right now, or is it pure skill ultimately? And like you can guarantee a kill as long as you play perfectly. Are there RNG
elements? Been diminished a lot. There's very little RNG to it. I guess I can kind of go over like the whole thought process for like the general overview of a kill.
Mm-hmm.
Initially when I just aggroed an ancient Sagamite. Whoops. Initially,
I'm just gonna pull up the video on my end of your upload and just kind of play it in the background silently. But yeah, you can keep going.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Yeah, initially when I started the kill, it was like I didn't know how to get past the minions because I thought I'd have to conserve a lot of supplies, but then I realized you can just brute force the minions. You can like alter for Fumus and Kruar because the timing works out, generally. And then for Umbra, you don't need to alter because it's during the range phase, which you can flick against. And like off-prey range attacks from Nex aren't as hurtful as off-prey magic attacks in any other phase. So like that worked out. And then I think like the biggest thing I was scared of during the entire kill was Ulysses. Because there was like this method I was using that Red Eye Jedi told me about, and I refined a little bit, which ended up not really being useful in the end. But there was like a kind of lure that you could do with Nex that I didn't include in the video either. There was like a 2 to 3 lure where essentially like the biggest supply constraint was combo eats. If Nex attacks you from 6 or more tiles away and you have more than 4 HP, or sorry, yeah, let's just say you have like 4 or less HP, you need to combo it the second they hit. Do you know what happens at like Zulrah when you take 2 hits in a row?
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly that situation.
So that really is, yeah, like you are being gate kept if you don't have a combo eat. Like you are gonna get chanced.
Yeah, so that was the initial issue, but then slowly over time, and especially after like Gnome and Noob types kills, I realized as long as you play it right, there's very few situations where you actually have to combo eat. I figured out like one thing that you can do accidentally as well that I tried to feature in the video. If Nex is like 10 tiles away from you, like that's the worst distance she can be away from you generally. If she's exactly 10 tiles away. In that case, you can actually walk away 1 tile, and for some reason it delays her attack by 1 tick, so you can run in. Essentially making you essentially gaining you a tick.
So that's pretty much solved at this point. It looks like all the combo eats. Like technically, in theory, if you played perfectly, you could just have sweets and be fine. Or is there any other?
I don't think you ever need combo eats. There are some bad dash positions that she can take. For example, if you're in the middle and she dashes to the corner, generally you'd have to combo eat that, but I realized you can run the opposite direction from Nex and force her to dash, like not running under her, but be staying out of her range. It's a lot of situational, like you have to react in a tick to what's going on in the kill. It's her own little mini game. That's why I think it's kind of fun, actually. Initially, I was kind of just like, oh my god, I hope this is over now, but
yeah, I mean I mean, one, it's not efficient. Even if you were perfect, it would still be better doing duos for items.
Oh, totally.
But it is neat that this is like an actual reasonable. I mean, not reasonable. That depends on the definition. But it's almost like a solo top. Like it's not efficient, but it's definitely something you can consistently do if you get really, really good. And it is interesting, like you said, because it really does have mechanics that you never see in any other boss. Like just the simple 1-tick movement consistently. It takes a lot of skill and a lot of just brain power. You need to stay focused, which is pretty interesting.
It looks really, like, it looks simple, right? You're just running around and hitting the boss, but there's a lot of like different edge cases that she can enter over a 50-minute kill, or however long you take. I guess now 20, but yeah, there's a lot of edge cases that make it much more interesting. Like if she dashes very close, you're not supposed to instantly react, or you can chance a melee. That's happened a lot of times. You have to like kind of unwire that memory.
Damn. So do you think ice phase is the hardest phase, or what?
I thought ice phase was the hardest phase. Noob Type and Gnome said blood was the hardest phase. They're probably right. Ice was hardest for me just because I was very worried about the DPS check at Glacies. Oh yeah, the reason I was worried so much at Glacies was because I couldn't use that tactic, the lure, because Glacies can freeze you through prayer, and like that kind of threw a wrench into things. So I just thought I'm gonna like usher over a couple of brews and hope I can just get it normally. And that did end up being the case. Yeah, if you just pray range against the ice prison on the correct tick, then you can generally outlive it. It only does like 30 damage or something, and if you don't get like max hit by Glacies and Nex on a bad tick or something, you're probably fine.
Okay, so solo Nex has now officially been done, which is just nuts. I mean, this is like, in my opinion, the new solo Tob. So like for those that really want to challenge, go solo and Nex, because this would definitely test your patience and your just reaction times in general, I feel like. So
movement, baby, movement is so fun in this game.
Yeah, I mean in my personal opinion, watching this doesn't look like the most enjoyable movement. This looks like horribly hectic, just kind of like just frustrating almost, the amount of times you could just misclick accidentally. But it definitely will like prove your skill level. So have you done solo Tob?
I never completed it. I think like 2 years ago, when I wasn't as good as I am now, I got to Verzik P2. I died on the first ticket and I never went back. I failed the very first ticket.
I mean,
I might go back to it at some point.
It's pretty impressive to even get there, though. So that's
yeah, I suppose.
Yeah. So what would you say? Well, I mean, you haven't completed it, but what would you say is probably harder? Is it still solo Tob, you'd imagine?
My opinion's not going to be fair, especially since I figured out solo Nex, but I don't remember much. I'm going to say solo Nex is harder, but probably not by much. Like they're probably close. It's just that it's different things, right? One of them is like a bunch of different bosses, and the other one is just like one mechanic that you just have to nail for 20 minutes.
True. Okay, so let's switch topics entirely and talk about the project rebalance that's going to be happening, and in particular of a Soulreaper Axe. That is obviously in a weird, wonky spot, and most people don't actually enjoy how the weapon works right now. So what are your thoughts on the Soulreaper Axe currently, and what would you propose?
Is it confirmed they're going to like rework it or something?
It sounds like they are about to. It sounds like Jagex is not satisfied with where it's at, and they made it clear in the post that Soulreaper Axe would be something they're looking at. They didn't give any information about like what they're going to do to it, if they're going to change things drastically, if they're just going to reduce the damage that you take basically and heal up with. But I don't know. Like, where are your thoughts on the current Soulreaper Axe? Are you happy with it right now?
Nah, not really. Especially since it's only useful at one boss, and like, I don't think it requires much thought. You just bang 40 HP and you use it.
Yeah.
When it came out first, when it was first proposed, it felt very out of place. I'm gonna go ahead and get controversial maybe, but I feel like a lot of items lately, like I feel like they're trying to do some quirky stuff, like with what was that dungeon's name that they were gonna release in Zaya? Not Colosseum, but the other one.
Yeah,
like the mid-level dungeon.
I don't remember what it was called, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like there's like a bunch of cool effects there, and it's all like, well, great, but they're all like mid-level items. So like I'm not gonna end up using it in the end. So it's like it's great, but I wish like the rewards were swapped around with Colosseum and that. But yeah, lately I feel like they're just throwing out ideas and like seeing what sticks, and I don't know. I feel like a little more thought into it might have been cool, specifically for Soulreaper. I'd say I didn't like two things about it. It felt really out of place, like coming from 4 bosses. Like the effect made it sound like it was supposed to be a mega rare or something, like on that power level to me. And then B, I love the idea of a ramp up weapon, but if I was to make some changes, like I think it needs to be reworked completely. The main design choice that I was really annoyed with was that you lose stacks when you switch weapons. I feel like keeping track of however many ticks you have left on the Soulreaper Axe before it loses stacks is like more exciting and more skill expressive than just losing stacks immediately after you switch.
So you're actually happy with the charge loss just from the amount of ticks that have passed. You're okay with that. You just don't want the weapon changes being affected.
Yeah, if they were gonna like just go the lazy route and not change much about it, I'd probably do that. Maybe like, I don't know. It's literally just useful at Vardorvis. I feel like it should be more high risk, high reward. So the bank 40 HP thing, it's kind of random, but it's fine, I think. I don't know how long the cooldown is before it starts losing stacks, like 8 ticks, I think.
Yeah, 8 ticks.
Okay. What if after 8 ticks, if you let those 8 ticks elapse, you don't lose stacks one by one, you lose all of them.
Oh God.
So like higher risk, but in return, I feel like they should also buff the speed of the axe and like just change its max hit to compensate for it. I feel like that weapon is much more suitable to be a faster weapon, especially with that kind of mechanic. Like you could use it in somewhere like Nilo Room or like, you know, like anywhere that lets you fit in a couple of hits. Like imagine you use Soulreaper Axe because it's useful on something, and then you want to fit in a quick blowpipe hit or two, or like a T-bow or whatever you're hitting, and then switch back to it real quick. Like I feel like that's a more fun mini game probably to play than just camp axe and don't think about your HP. The spec kind of feels like useless. When would you ever really want a spec? Like you're just losing DPS.
Yeah,
you know?
It's not great. If the spec was like super powerful and it had like some crazy accuracy or like even potentially a minimum hit, then that would be a little bit more warranted. But yeah, right now, like using it, it's like, oh, well, back to the dog shit again, even though it's not necessarily
literally.
dog shit. It's just like
the risk and
worse.
reward feels misplaced to me. And finally, and this is going to sound a little crazy probably, if it's going to be a strong weapon, like maybe buff its DPS even more. But I'm imagining, like, say a 3-tick weapon, right? Make it drain HP with every hit. It doesn't have to be a big amount, but it should have like some cost to use.
Interesting. So what if it was just even 1 damage every single time you hit?
Yeah, like 1 or 2 is what I was thinking.
And
numbers can always be tweaked.
But. Yeah, and what did you say? You wanted it to be 3-tick?
Yeah.
Wow.
So like a 3-tick with like a, I guess 8-tick cooldown or a 5-tick cooldown. 5-tick cooldown is probably like more appropriate for something like that. So you can like fit something in, or like 6-tick cooldown so you can fit a T-bow in or whatever immediately after attacking.
Interesting. Okay, because I mean, I personally don't know what the best route would be for the Soulreaper Axe. I like the idea of another sort of spec orb where that is that's like something you have to build up. Like I like the default spec orb we have that just regenerates over time, and then a secondary one. In my head, and this is what I've talked to, like I talked to Travis42 a lot about this. None of these ideas are really solidified. I'm just like shooting the shit basically. Like there's nothing, basically just like spewing my thoughts. But I think it would actually be kind of cool if there was just a secondary special orb permanently on your game. So, and then we could introduce more weapons in the future. And I was even thinking maybe skilling tools as well could utilize this new charged sort of spec orb. Because I think
spec energy 2.
Yes, I mean that's literally what I'm thinking. Because if you had 2 different orbs, I mean you could then always keep track of how many like your certain weapons have. Obviously, it would get a little bit convoluted when you have like multiple weapons that have that, because then like what is the weapon necessary, like what's the weapon that's using that orb charge, or maybe it really is just a default sort of charge thing where you could use a different weapon charge up and then you could use another sort of weapon. Like I'm just talking like the future, if there was another sort of thing like the Soulreaper Axe, they would like kind of combine sort of, and you could use the special of either or once you've built up enough charges. But obviously, this is getting like way more complicated than just the Soulreaper Axe we're dealing with right now. But
I wouldn't be opposed to something like that. I feel like people might vote no on something like that though, because like it adds more things that you have to keep track of, and it's not like optional. Like it's on your screen, right? Yeah, I would like. I do like optional things certain weapons or equipment makes you do. I find that very fun. I can't actually think of anything immediately. I'll get back to that.
Yeah. So, but that is interesting. I'm glad you're thinking, because I mean the Soulreaper Axe does deserve to be buffed in some aspect. It could be completely reworked, but it needs to be slightly more powerful in my opinion. And like you said, having a downside where maybe you're losing HP or just anything like that. Like if there's a cost associated to it, it doesn't need to be a charged weapon, but some sort of cost associated would mean that. And to be fair, I mean, this item is expensive and it does take a long ass time to get. So it is on that tier of being a mega rare, in my opinion.
Not unless you buy it on GE, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, true. What do you think the Soulreaper Axe will, because I'm pretty sure what is the price actually right now? Because I know it shot up when they kind of proposed that it would get changed.
I think it's around 300 mil right now.
384 mil. Holy. So
okay.
it feels like a mega rare already. And if it gets a good enough buff, which I really want it to,
goddamn,
then I think it would be warranted. I'm just excited. So I love hearing your thoughts. Do you have any other like ideas for it, or is it really just be more powerful, sort of?
For Soulreaper Axe specifically, probably no.
Okay.
I've had like item ideas over time. Okay, yeah, tangent. Let's see. The other day I was complaining on Discord while I was at work. Just like, I understand the need for direct upgrades to things, but I feel like it's kind of getting boring, especially as somebody who has had like end game gear for however long now. It's like a new ring, a new set of rings isn't that exciting to me. I feel like a lot of it doesn't change the way you interact with anything that you've played. It just changes the metagame. It changes what gear you would bring, like slightly maybe. It changes what you would equip in certain rooms, but once you get used to that, it's the same game. A lot of strategizing and like skill expression comes from figuring out optimal setups early on, whenever there's any gear release or boss release, I think. And after that, it just gets mundane. That's why I can't really get myself to grind anything out like people do. For items as well, I feel like direct upgrades are cool and all, and I know you need to have some direct upgrades. Like I think Shadow was a cool addition. Like Magic didn't have that mega rare, and it's good that it has it now. But man, I just want something fun, you know? I just want something with like its own little mini game, like the axe that I just mentioned, like the axe proposal, or like Voidwaker is cool, even though it doesn't really have its own mini game. Oh yeah, I was gonna talk about Venator Bow. I think Venator Bow is a cool item that could have been better maybe if like it had better double bounce damage or something. Because I think at the moment it's only barely better than piping. I know it's like OP for Slayer, and like it's good at Inferno, but the speedrunners just haven't picked up on it or don't use it.
Well, the problem is like in Inferno, it's just barely worth it if you've absolutely mastered how to use it. So
yeah, exactly.
But
like it's such a fun little mini game on its own.
It's definitely like a fun weapon to use. I personally wish it was 3-tick. I mean, then you could, you know, change the DPS slightly, but honestly, I thought that would be so much more fun to use, a 3-tick Venator Bow.
Yeah, that sounds sick.
Yeah, and then you really would be trolling not bringing it into Inferno. Like even if they weren't to change the stats, if they literally just made Venator Bow like this is a very, very powerful weapon because we did just massively increase the DPS by making it 3-tick, you would feel obligated to bring it, and it would create a lot more like unique strategies to solve, and Inferno specifically, but even other pieces of content like that would actually become pretty damn enjoyable to use. Plus, I mean, for my, you know, purposes, like I love just, you know, AFKing jellies or something. Like if I could AFK them a little bit faster with a 3-tick thing, like, and even like just gathering mobs, like, cause that was another purpose for the bow, was literally just to like gather mobs. So you didn't have to feel obligated to like alt to gather things up. Like that would be nice too. I wonder as well if they would, I don't know if this would be necessarily appropriate, but just in regards to gathering mobs, if they could code it to prioritize tagging things that haven't been tagged, if that's even like something possible. I mean, I'm assuming it's totally possible. I just don't know how like complicated that would be to code. But
that sounds like a cool idea.
Yeah, because sometimes you're. I mean, I'm just thinking of my jelly room again. This is not high level PvM. This is just my own. That just, you know, what
jellies.
Yeah, like what annoys me is like when there's clearly 2 jellies in the range of his bow, but the arrow decides to shoot the ones that are already like low HP, and it's like, can you shoot the other ones? Like, I don't know. So
no idea how that item targets anything.
It's so odd. It's really weird. I mean, just in regards to those sort of mechanics, I mean, the Scythe is the same way. I really wish they would change the Scythe already. This doesn't affect people most of the time, but like Thermi, for example, if there's a mini Smoke Devil that enters underneath, it'll just swipe the mini Smoke Devil. Like, bruh, like this, the Thermi's a 4x4. Like, if you're attacking with a Scythe, why not prioritize all 3 hits on the targeted monster if it can accept all hits? Like, that was really frustrating to me, how it will literally just hit another mob, even though the target's big enough to take all 3. And same thing with Sarachnis. If there's a Mage Spider underneath, it'll target the Mage Spider, even though you're trying to swing at the main target, and it's just not accepting all the hits. It's kind of annoying. I wish they would have changed that by now, but...
Yeah, I don't know how hard that would be to code as well, but I feel like that would be a good change. Like, do that, and then... If your main target is a small one, then like you can add any excess hits to the big one that it's under, like at Nightmare with Parasites, for example.
Yep. Totally.
That's a good way to go about it, I think.
And all the coding would need to be is just if the main target you're attacking can be hit with all 3 hit spots, allow that. Don't try to be attacking other things.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Venator Bow 3-tick. I mean, if they were to just make it 3-tick, would you be for that?
Oh yeah, totally. Theory. I mean, that's an increase of DPS by like what, 25%. That's good. That's
great. And that would be appropriate. You don't think that would like break anything?
So one thing I heard last second when I like mentioned this is that apparently Venator Bow really lowered the skill ceiling at Barbarian Assault, which I really forgot that was even a thing. But apparently now you can just like, since everything already aggro's on you, you can just like AFK on them or something. Is what I've heard.
I don't know how I feel about. I mean, what did they? Are they bothered by that? Or are they kind of pleased in a selfish way, like sort of like, oh, this is kind of nice actually.
I've heard like they're bothered by it because like now anybody can just go and you have to use a Venator Bow. It's best in slot, right?
Yeah. Interesting.
And then you're just AFKing instead of actually clicking things now.
So making a 3-tick would be even crazier, but
I mean, I want it for everywhere else. I don't really know about Barbarian Assault. I don't know how I'd really balance that, but
yeah, it's hard to balance. I mean, I do not envy the J mods. In any regard when it comes to these kind of things, because I mean, literally, they have to keep track of so many different things. When it comes to different game modes, different people's play styles, every single mini game, purists, like pures and low defense accounts and all these other restricted accounts. Like, there's so many things that they have to consider.
Sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, and no matter what, you're not going to please everybody, so you're doomed totally regardless.
I wish they'd like improve the beta experience for that though. Like, I remember the Desert Treasure 2 beta, and like every other beta they've done, I feel like there just aren't enough betas whenever they like propose items. And then when there is betas, it's very buggy, or like there's always something missing, or like I wonder if they can't just like add, you know, how have you ever played any of the betas?
I rarely do. I mean, I remember trying out the Ruinous Powers beta for like 20 minutes, and I was just like, it's just like resetting like all of my settings, and at first it's just annoying as shit.
So I have to deal with that. You have a bunch of boilerplate to deal with before you even get to try anything out. You have to grab all of your items off a table. Like, why can't it just be in your bank?
I know.
I feel like they should just take like any high-level PvMer's bank, copy paste it there, and like work from there or something.
Literally.
I wonder if they can't do that. I wonder if there's some like limitation. I don't know, or they just didn't think about it.
Yeah, they could. I mean, they have made improvements so far, and I feel like there's more to come, hopefully. But yeah, that needs to be way more standardized and streamlined. It's so annoying.
Because how are people going to vote on something when they can't even like beta test it? People just. I am kind of just randomly going off of thoughts that I was thinking of, but I feel like a lot of people, when it comes to something like polling, you know, have you seen like Mod Matt K's tweet? He like tweeted the poll results of like last year, and like only 4 polls failed out of like every single poll, and most of them were PvP related. I feel like people just vote anything in. I'm not against voting things in specifically or anything, but like I feel like the rationale for like voting behind things is why not right now for a lot of people. Like, that sounds cool, you know. But like, I feel like the people who think that would be okay with anything coming into the game, really, or like a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's just tough because most people, I mean, even including myself, like I'm okay with new content being released and things. And generally speaking, again, generally, there definitely have been exceptions, but most of the time, Jagex is aware of things that could be really broken for the game. Like, I feel like, in my opinion, I haven't heard your opinion. You might disagree with me on this, but I think Ruinous Powers was really appropriate to scrap.
I agree. I wish they kept working on it, but I didn't like it in the way it was.
What are your thoughts on like the God prayer book, like the little God alignment stuff where you can like switch it out? Obviously, they really haven't talked about what prayers would be attached to them, but at least you still have the standard prayer book alongside these additions.
I feel like alignments don't really say much at this stage. It's like cool little gimmick, I guess. It's flavorful. You have like lore. You're aligned with a god. It feels more like an RPG. But I can't really say anything yet. I don't know like the individual prayers that would exist. And if I had to imagine, since you can't really balance that kind of shit, like they're gonna release that, they're gonna be a bunch of god alignments, and like one of them is gonna be meta, and everything else is gonna be useless.
No,
as it always is.
And that would be something where like it would be way easier to balance because simply there's only 4 prayers added to each. So all you have to do is just be the team has to be acutely aware of just like, okay, we're gonna release this and we're gonna keep a goddamn close eye on this for the next month or 2 and really listen to all feedback and try to really nail the balance of this so that they're very distinct, and like one of them could be like, and so you would actually feel the need if you're in like team raids or something to really have different people bringing different ones, because it genuinely is worth it in scenarios. But you're right, if they were to just release it and not touch it, it would totally work out that one of them just dominates and you'd be trolling using any other one. So
I mean, generally how it is with like gear and everything else, really.
So it's definitely something that they'd have to keep an eye on, but it would be much more simple because they would only be like not really like minor effects. Like there would definitely be some powerful effects, but you would have everything that you already need and want on the standard prayer book that's essential, and then just some random additional perks, which
and it would just be a little bit of power creep, I guess, which I actually, now that you mention it, I don't like just like raw power creep in that sense. I feel like Ruinous Prayers would have had a trade-off, and the trade-off was just not balanced enough. I did like the idea of high risk, high reward. I feel like they've been like experimenting with that a lot, but just haven't nailed it. The risk is generally not a risk for most people, and the reward is just generally not good enough for the things that they've been trying. I think one of the things they tried with that was DT2. I love DT2 bosses, by the way. Let me put that out there. I think they're really cool, especially the Awakened ones. Like Awakened Leviathan and Vardorvis. Oh yeah, that's a little tangent we can go on to in a minute. Awakened Leviathan and Vardorvis are probably like some of the coolest bosses they've ever added to the game.
Awakened Vardorvis is genuinely just fun from the very beginning to the end, and it's short. It's just
it has such a neat little flow to it, you know?
Totally. I totally agree.
But like, why does it cost money to kill even after you have Blood Torva? Like, I want to kill this boss. So I want to have an incentive for it, man.
What are your thoughts on if they were to make it so if you complete the Awakened, you get a guaranteed orb?
That would be better than anything, I guess. That would be better than just it costing right now. Personally, I don't really see the reason why it should cost anything to kill them after you have Blood Torva anyway. Like, it's not like you're really making more GP than the average Joe doing normal bosses. And it's harder too, so even if you were, like, it's justified. I don't know. I just don't understand the design choice whatsoever. Like, boss is beautiful. I literally just... it's so funny to me how you're just gate-kept. You're gate-kept by the cost. Like, the 1% of players, or however many it is, that would willingly do these bosses again are just gate-kept from them.
It is interesting. I mean, I respect in one way that they're trying something new and they've decided to go down this route, because the bosses are phenomenal. They're very fair and they're very difficult, and they're short and sweet.
No, it would be cool if it costs 1.5 mil or whatever orb costs right now to attempt the boss, but then it also drops a shit ton of money. High reward. There you go.
I mean, personally, I think the best way to go about it would just be like, well, first of all, I don't think 3x, the rares, is appropriate. I think it could even be like 5x, maybe even like slightly higher. Just be, something that genuinely feels rewarding. And then if you complete the Awakened version, you just get a guaranteed orb. So that's not increasing the money because you have to spend an orb just to kill it. But if you die, then you would still lose the money. So mastering the Awakened versions would be worth it because you're just getting free entries. You just repeatedly get another orb to reuse.
I guess that's an
But
approach. That would
I mean, that would still be odd. It would just be weird, like always getting another orb. But like ultimately, like that would be the way if they are thinking of making those bosses more repeatable. So.
Yeah, that's like something they could implement after the fact rather than us like talking about like hypotheticals they could have done, you know?
So, but yeah, no, the Awakens are super fun. I was gonna say something just in regards to like power creep and stuff. Like it's tough. Well, and what you were saying about like high risk, high reward sort of things. Like there is, in my opinion, the high risk sometimes can be annoying. Like for example, just making things more difficult for like higher damage output, like something where like you're just taking nonstop chip damage or something, in my opinion, is like not a good way to go about things. Like when things genuinely just feel annoying to use, but it's with the saying of like, oh, this is high risk, high reward, it's balanced or whatever. Like I feel like there's so much more to the conversation when things are just genuinely not enjoyable. And my fear with Ruinous Powers initially was like them coming out with this thing where like in theory on paper and stuff, it all sounds good. Where like, okay, these protection prayers aren't 100% protection, but you're going to be getting more damage output, so it's worth it in the long run. I just feel like if it had been released, ultimately people would just be so frustrated by the annoying mechanics of taking chip damage repeatedly that Jagex would just change it at some point. Just be like, okay, like this is actually just a nuisance to use.
It was very wonky for sure.
Yeah. I
did like some of the prayers from Ruinous a lot, and I kind of wish they would stay. Mainly Cruor's Vow I liked. I thought it was a good trade-off between prayer and HP that you could do, provided you could actually find enough things to kill. I know it was like broken in Nilo or something, but like I liked using that in ToA speedruns, like solo speedruns. You could turn it on while you're hitting Kefri, so you can like get while you're hitting the swarm, so you can like get extra vengeance on Kefri. That was really interesting, I think. Rebuke was a cool spell. It actually made vengeance like much more useful because a lot of places you don't even care about bringing it anymore. Like why bother? You can just bring thralls, right?
Yep.
I love using your HP as a resource as well. I think it's very skill expressed. Like a bunch of mini games. Like I think calling them mini games is fair. There's a lot of mini games in the game that make PvM more interesting. Like Venge, for example. All of a sudden your HP matters more because realistically your HP only matters if there's a DPS check, and your HP only needs to be higher than 1. In like any piece of content. But Venge lets you actually use your HP. Speaking of which, that's how I got my Awaken Whisperer wreck. Not that anybody cares about that one, but that was fun to do. You just spam a bunch of Venges and eat rests and try to fit in as many Venges as possible. And that boss hits hard. I don't know if you've seen it.
The Awaken one?
Awaken Whisperer, yeah. It hits like 60s.
Oh Jesus, I didn't know
and
that.
It hits like double hit too when it does melee, so it can't kill you from.
I did get melee. It was like a 51-51. So that is brutal. Yeah.
Anyway, what was I saying?
Venging.
Yeah, mini games. Like, yeah, I want more things to keep track of. I feel like that's fun. Generally it happens with bosses. I don't see it being implemented in items. Like it's generally boss mechanics that are the mini game, you know? Like what, for example? I can't think of anything right now. But like something cool they could do. I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to see Hayo's raid proposal. This was like 2 years ago.
Not that I recall.
Oh, it is beautiful. I'd recommend you to see that sometime. For one of his reward proposals, he proposes like a armor set, which is like normally much weaker than Torva and Bandos. Like it has no melee bonuses, but it's a melee armor set and it has high accuracy. So normally it's worse DPS, but like it adds a cool little minigame. several attacks or something, it exposes a weak point on one of the 4 sides of a boss. And you have to run to that side and like attack it from there, and you get extra damage.
Interesting.
I feel like that's adding like a mini game to an item. Sorry, go ahead.
So this would be just for larger NPCs?
I mean, yeah, you can balance it anyway, I guess. Larger NPCs. I guess most bosses are large anyway. But sure, let's say it's for larger NPCs. I don't know if you had a specific proposal for that.
No, I'm just thinking like yeah.
But like I think it's a cool way to like revitalize existing content. If you had something like that, all of a sudden you have an extra mini game to play.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there are so many things that you could do to like make bosses a little bit more complex and more like engaging and stuff. Ultimately, though, things do become the meta. So would players be okay with like, you know, a certain armor set like this, where all of a sudden every single boss becomes slightly more convoluted, where you have to run to a different side just to get extra DPS, and the DPS would have to be warranted. Like it'd have to be high enough to be worthwhile, and then at that point, would people even want to would people be okay with that in the game?
So, who's people? Like, is it just everybody? Is it high-end PvMers who want to bother with this?
I guess it really is just people that want to play efficiently, which is just a lot of players nowadays. Like they want to kill bosses the efficient way, but they don't want it to be like just overly complex. Now there are definitely I think there's more of a niche group that enjoys just go fucking crazy basically and make as many complicated things as possible. But yeah, I don't know. It's like I guess I have a bias. I'm just thinking to myself right now, if I now had to, like, if I was getting a legitimate like 5% DPS buff or something to run around a boss and hit on certain like spots repeatedly, and this is just happening throughout all the game now with a certain armor, I feel like I'd get almost kind of annoyed because I'd feel like I need to.
I can feel that. Like I can get that, and that's why like it's not like you don't immediately add that stuff, right? You like beta it. I think you want to beta it, see how people feel about it, and then ultimately your choice whether you think it's going to be balanced for the game or not or something.
Yeah, for sure. Betas would be very important, very vital for that.
Yeah, I just wish they would try like more mini game kind of novelty kind of items like that, or like prayers in that case. Yeah, I loved Rebuke. I loved Crow's Vow. There was one more. Gambit was kind of cool, I think, because yeah, even though like there's that subgroup that you said, I genuinely wonder how much of the player base cares like so much that they would vote no to something like that just because they don't want to bother. Because like for prayer fucking, for example, for Gambit, I wonder how many people would vote no. Gambit isn't that impactful, I think.
Explain what Gambit was exactly.
Gambit was an overhead. So it's mutually exclusive from protection prayers. That added 8% accuracy to your hit. So you would essentially be flicking it in between protection prayers at like any given content. So if you wanted to do things like hyper efficiently, you would always have to flick Gambit.
Yep. I mean, it wasn't crazy enough to be like you're trolling if you're not. I mean, you technically would be if in like speedrun scenarios, but
yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually more for that in a way. Like one of my proposals, if we weren't to do the God Vows and it was just like add some additional prayers to a standard prayer book, because we do have 6 additional slots, we could fit them in. Like one of the things I really wanted was like a judgment prayer, which was simply sort of like a piety, but it's just
was that from ToA initially?
It was, but that was the original proposal from ToA, but it was supposed to be an overhead. Like it was something where you couldn't use protections while you're using it. But my proposal would be, it's not an overhead. It's just similar to a piety. And it would be pure accuracy based. And then there would also be like, what did I call it? Like a bulwark prayer or something, or like it's some sort of defense prayer. I can't remember what I called it. But it was basically just a piety sort of prayer that's pure defense, but like absurd defense. Maybe like, 60% defense. And so instead of, you know, so you would have the option almost to do like armor switches, you know, when you want to like, you know, kind of like take less damage, but you could also just flick this other prayer as well. So you could just, it would just be a little bit more like chill, and it wouldn't really.
Or you could do both.
Yeah, you could. I mean, you could take it really far if you wanted to. But ultimately, like, nothing's game breaking, but it's just slight little advantages that you could use. And I feel like
it's a sweet spot.
Yeah, and it feels good. Like, it feels like something, like one of my favorite little portions of a boss fight is the Muspa fight when it switches to smite phase. I just think that's just so, it's just so enjoyable. It's so chill. It's so easy, but there's timing to it, and it's just a little bit of prayer flicking. It's just nice. So
it's like a comfortable level of difficulty. Is that right?
Exactly, and it's the rhythm that you're in. I think that's important.
Yeah, different people enjoy different things too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I appreciate that people have different play styles and stuff, but sometimes I just feel like, the hard things don't get added to the game because people want to be efficient but don't want to sweat. If that makes sense.
Yep.
Like you said earlier. Like I feel like it's optional. You're not entitled to being efficient. Yeah. You don't have to be like 100% efficient. I feel like there should be more trade-off. Like, if I want to really sweat, then I should be rewarded a little more. Not like too much. Not like give me all the GP in the world kind of shit and stuff. But like,
yeah, I agree with that.
Worth it.
I agree with that. Where there's just minor things that you can do to choose to be a little bit more sweaty. I think that is the way to go about it. All right, there is a Reddit post here that was uploaded like almost 3 weeks ago, and it was basically you saying, well, for those on Spotify listening without the graphic, I'll just say there's a Reddit post of you saying, I'm collecting snowy nights. We'll pay 12k each if you sell them to me in bulk, 1,000 more at a time. I won't buy any quantity lower than that. And then you basically explain how to catch these snowy nights. And then there's an edit that's saying, just woke up to getting spam traded in like 50 DMs. You guys absolutely smashed it. So apparently you got a ton of different sellers, and you are now not buying them anymore. But it looks like you have now 101,000 snowy nights banked.
Yeah, I think I'm at 120 roughly right now.
So what is this whole thing? Explain it. Why?
Because I can. I was slow buying those. I just thought I wanted to like collect an item. And I was like, what better than butterfly? Because, butterfly. And I chose one of the butterflies, and that was like the prettiest one.
That can't be the reason, right? What
it really is the reason.
Is there not an additional reason to this? People have been theorizing that it's going to have some.
No, you guys give me too much credit. No, it's literally just collecting them. It was funny to see Reddit like theorize though.
So really, there's no other agenda on this.
I promise there's no other agenda. Although after the fact, people mentioned that like Varlamore release is gonna happen and Hunter Guild, but I think I hella overpaid anyway. So like, there's no way those butterflies are gonna go to 12k each.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be a merching opportunity. I guess in my head, somebody in my chat was saying that there's a chance, it's not guaranteed or anything, but there's a chance that that's going to make some sort of healing potion or something like that. To be fair, I'm not really fully in the loop with all the stuff that's coming out to Varlamore and the Hunter Guild, but there's like some sort of effect that's going to be an AoE sort of heal effect, and Snowy Nights might play a part in that or something like that. I wasn't fully aware.
Yeah, I think what I heard was they're gonna buff butterfly effects. Right now you can only use they're single use, and you can only use them on one person, and they literally need to be in multi and on your friends list. Like it's such an old ancient item. They're supposed to be changing it, if I recall, so that A, it doesn't have those awkward restrictions, and B, I think either they're making it multi-use or they're making it so that it's an AoE effect up to 3 people at a time. So like, I think it's just shy of a brew actually in terms of healing if they go through with that.
Would it cost any ticks to heal?
That's a good question. I don't remember. I don't know if it actually adds on to your attack cooldown. I want to say no, but I'm not entirely sure. If it is no, that would actually kind of be a good item.
Yeah, that sounds insane for some scenarios. Like, I'm just thinking 8-man ToA, just having one dude just repeatedly heal you guys.
Yeah, then again, you don't really need healing a lot of.
Wouldn't you just
ToA anyway?
Wouldn't you just venge at Kefri though? I'm just thinking, or is that just like a one-off sort of thing? Like, I'm just thinking if you could like spam heal everybody back to full.
Yeah, you double venge, but you don't really need the HP after that. It's like you rely on Blood Fury heals.
I see.
Unfortunately, Venge isn't that impactful of a spell in the first place. Like, especially with 8 people, you need to hit a lot of Venges for it to actually save ticks rather than have a chance to save ticks. The math of that is kind of weird, but yeah.
Okay. Well, interesting. I definitely had somebody in my chat that's really just he had been catching Snowy Nights for the past like 3 weeks or something like that, and just talking about
what is he planning?
Yeah. Okay, so let's hear about your, I guess, disappointments in ToA invocations. And I guess we already talked about the Desert Treasure 2 orb costs and stuff, but maybe the Colosseum rewards as well.
I wanted to keep this positive, but if you're asking me to complain, I will definitely take that chance.
Of course, we need to hear it. We need to hear it.
All right, ToA was probably my biggest disappointment in the game ever. I know a lot of people enjoyed it for its accessibility, but like when I first saw what they were doing with ToA, I was like hella excited. I'm big into like the atmosphere and lore of the game too. So when I saw that, I was like, yes, we're gonna have a team raid that we can do and get better at together. And like, I just went back to the days that I learned Tob. I'm like, it's gonna be like this. I'm gonna have the experience of learning something new again, and it's gonna be so much fun with all the boys. And then like for the first 2 weeks, it was like that. Like, we were learning a bunch. We were not really getting purples, but that's just average. But then like literally 2 weeks elapsed and like everything was already figured out. And it just turns out that solo's the meta. It's like, well, fuck, I guess all of my friends are quitting. Like, this was the one thing we were waiting like for. There was no content coming out for a while, like no PvM content, and that's what we were all really into. And then when ToA came out, it's like, fuck, man. All of my friends quit after that, pretty much. Like, I had to pretty much find new friends.
So what was it exactly about ToA that was so disappointing? Was it just the fact that things were solved quickly, or was it the content itself that made it so it was solved so quickly?
I can't be upset about things being solved quickly because nothing really lasts in this game. Well, I guess except Solo Next somehow, but yeah, everything is generally solved in like a week. But what was upsetting about it was just how simple it was. Like, we overhyped it a lot, and then the invocations ended up being what we were fearing, which was they don't really add on to the raid. It's just a bunch of restrictions, or literally just add more damage to things. And the raid is fundamentally like very similar in a 150 and a 500. It's just you're not allowed to fuck up as much. That's it. And like perfection is definitely an avenue for skill expression, but it's also, in my opinion, like the most boring one. Like, sure, do a kill for 50 minutes, I guess, or however long a 500 takes these days, I guess. Back then it was harder too. Like, they did 2 patches to ToA to make 500s much easier. But yeah,
what are your thought? Like, what is the best invocation they did, and what are like the worst invocations? And what do you think they should have done more of in regards to invocations?
Feeling special is a good one because it can literally speed up the raid if you can handle the speed of like the memory attack and stuff. Like, I like that trade-off there.
Mm-hmm.
So many complaints. Okay, one big thing, I think they tried the high risk, high reward there again, but like the focus was high on accessibility. So like, I feel like that was more of an afterthought. I'm completely making guesses here, but the risk is in the raid itself and wiping it, and the reward is in higher purple chance. But people don't really like just having high. No, don't get me wrong. Like higher purple chance is cool and all, but like it's not immediate gratification. You don't immediately see yourself hitting bigger numbers. Like it just doesn't feel as cool. Like you might get a purple now. The reward is delayed and it doesn't feel good to play, I feel like. As opposed to something like, I feel like the good things they did in ToA, like Liquid Adrenaline's a great addition. It makes you feel so powerful, especially like when you're hitting like DDSs on the core. I remember the first time you were doing that, like, holy shit, I've never hit these big numbers like back to back to back. Like it's a big dopamine hit, you know?
Yep.
Liquid Adrenaline was a great addition. I feel like Liquid Adrenaline would have been an invo, actually. But like stuff like that.
This is a brief tangent just to kind of interrupt. What are your actual thoughts on like liquid adrenaline or some sort of adrenaline pot in the main game? And it doesn't need to be an adrenaline pot as works in the ToA. I was talking to Travis 42 a few weeks back, and we were thinking of like a spec pot that each dose just replenishes 25% of your spec, but it's an expensive potion that, you know, wouldn't be used everywhere.
My thoughts are why? Why would you add something like that to the game? What does it add?
Fun. Dopamine.
I guess. Is it any different than making your T-Bow hit like 10 bigger numbers? Like, I feel like it doesn't change the way you play the game fundamentally, besides adding things to your inventory and changing your gear setup slightly. That's kind of what I was trying to talk about when I was saying metagaming. I feel like a lot of upgrades you get don't really change the way you play the game. It's just, great, now can I fit in this ring anywhere?
Yep.
Okay, can I fit it in? Is it better? Let me do all the DPS calcs. Okay, it's like 0.2% better. Great. I'm just going to keep doing ToB the exact same way I did, or whatever, or ToA. If it's not going to add anything to my gameplay experience besides just increase a couple of numbers, I don't want it anymore, personally. I think there's too much of that already. That's what I was kind of trying to hint to when I was saying, like, people generally approach things with like, why not? Because when I think about it, really, why not? Sure, add like liquid adrenaline. Everybody's gonna have it, right? Everybody's gonna be on an equal playing field. We'll probably break some records because that's gonna be really OP, and you'll want to bring it every single place you possibly can. But then once that's settled, it's like it's the same gameplay experience. You're still using your DDS specs or your ZCV specs everywhere you already would.
Yeah,
I'd much rather have items that are interesting to play with.
In my opinion, and again, I'm not necessarily advocating for these sort of rejuvenation pots that would restore your spec, but assuming that, let's just say, like in my idea, the potion basically would be a very expensive potion with expensive ingredients that, you know, maybe costs around 100k, maybe 150k or something per pot. And each pot acts like a normal potion where you can only sip a sip every 3 ticks, and it heals 25% of your spec. And you can just bring as many as you want, technically, but ultimately it would not be made for money making. Like, you would be just drinking liquid gold, basically, because they'd be expensive. And in a lot of places where speedrunning is like a big thing, like Inferno or CMs, like there wouldn't be enough space to bring these things. It wouldn't, like, maybe you could fit a couple, just, you know, for some sort of effect, which would spice up the meta, in my opinion. But ultimately, you just need this. You need space for other supplies and gear. So,
so you have to metagame kind of figure out where you can fit it in.
Exactly. So there would be some fitting it in. It would never be just for casual use. It would seriously be for just like speed running and other sort of avenues of stuff where you just can fit a lot of these potions in. But personally, I think it would actually be kind of addicting to use, because it is something where like special attacking is really enjoyable and fun.
Yeah, totally.
And I just think, and, you know, if it was an expensive pot, I mean, this could be, you know, some sort of other avenue for skillers. Who knows? Maybe the ingredients are rare, but you have to get from Varlamore or some other random shit that's like, you know, kind of
I guess so.
improves the economy or improves the the kind of, well, I guess economy might be the right word. I don't know, but just getting skillers involved in as well, like having them have like a nice money maker potentially, but that's not really the main point of it.
If it was added to the game, I wouldn't complain about it, but if it was pulled, I'd vote no. Just because like I said, my approach to pull is I want something to add to my gameplay experience rather than saying why not. Yeah. And I don't think that adds to my gameplay experience.
That's fair. And there's probably a variety of downsides to something like this that I haven't heard arguments for, because I'm bringing up stuff and I want to hear counter arguments. I'm not saying bring this out into the game. Right. But I do think that it could be fun and it could be like kind of exciting for certain pieces of content.
Well, I guess counter argument, since you're metagaming and trying to fit it in, you're probably decreasing your odds that you're going to survive somewhere. I don't know where specifically, but like speedruns are already living on a prayer. In a lot of places. Like, have you seen any Inferno speedruns, bro? They do not complete a run.
Yeah, they have to chance themselves repeatedly.
Chance yourself for like 40 minutes. Jeez.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
It does get pretty crazy, but that's also just the that's RuneScape as well in a nutshell. It's just you get to a point where like if you want to beat a record, you got to start chancing yourself. You got to start like taking these stupid risks.
Yeah, all speedrunning boils down to that in the end. It's fun until you get to the end, and when you get to the end, it's suffering.
Yeah, literally. Just praying for good RNG.
Yeah. So players really love putting themselves through suffering in RNG one way or not. No matter what stage of the game you're in, if you're a noob, you're grinding for drops. If you're an endgame player, you're grinding for speedrun RNG. Literally. It's all the same.
So let's go. Let's take a detour back to ToA. And what in your opinion, would have made ToA better? Are there like specific examples of things that could have improved it?
Okay, great. You know what? I'm going to pull up my paste bin of a bunch of invos and reworks I was thinking of, because I've thought about this a long time.
Let's see it. Would you mind if I pulled it up as well?
Sure, I'll send it to you.
Okay.
I have to find my own paste bin website though. We're not in any rush, yeah.
Yeah, no, we're good. We're chilling.
Okay.
Because I know when I've talked to No Monkey, and I remember like him really wanting, like he doesn't think insanity is insane enough. It would like some crazier shit happening.
Oh yeah, we share a lot of similar opinions with him. I think most things we just like kind of got from each other as well. Here's one. This is my Warden's rework idea. Not as long as I thought it would be. I have a bunch of other PvM ideas too, actually, here, apparently. Could send them to you as well. You don't have to read them here, but... had a high-level item idea. I had a hard mode next idea.
So let's focus on ToA, I guess, for now.
Right. Okay. I'll just send those to you as well.
Okay, yeah, do that. I feel like I've seen this. Did you link this to me at some point?
I might have.
Why is this? It's very familiar. Okay, so what are like, because this is definitely kind of long, but what are some of the ones that you are definitely most for?
Okay, so Insanity. Okay. Let's start off with that one. Insanity is not insane. It should be insane, though. Insanity should have been all 4 Phantoms out from the very beginning on the final phase. Like, you have to off-tick flick them and move a lot more. And... yeah, actually, you know what? That's already enough. All 4 Phantoms out is already hard enough. And then the floor attack on its own isn't very interesting. I think an easy way to make things hard in ToA or anywhere else is simply to just barrage somebody with, like... with mechanics. In ToA, the biggest thing I hate about, like, ToA difficulty is that whenever there's a single mechanic coming out, everything else stops. There's never multiple things coming at you at the same time. It's always like just one thing. For example, when you pop out the core, right? I get that it makes sense, like flavor-wise. I guess like the Warden's heart is out, so everything stops. But when you pop out the core, you're literally AFKing there hitting the core. Like I feel like that should not be a thing. It's just so boring. You're standing there for like 40 ticks or something.
It's
Like,
true.
why?
Yeah.
This is not insanity. What should have kept happening is like, yeah. So insanity. All 4 phantoms out on P2. I think both of the wardens should have hit you. Like the warden should have actually been a duo boss. They said it would be a duo boss, but it's just Dusk and Dawn again. It's not really a duo boss. Heck, it's even worse than that because they never both attack you at the same time. They never have like 2 mechanics you have to deal with at the same time. It's just like one attacks and then he sleeps and then the other attacks. I feel like they might have went through that in when they were first designing the bosses and then scrapped it later. I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna be really harsh saying this probably, but I feel like the Warden's boss fight. I'm ignoring the rooms for now. The Warden's boss fight feels like it's an unfinished concept. Like they just had time constraint and they just had to release whatever they had in their hand.
Really?
Just think about it for a sec. P1 skulls, like there's a huge DPS check. P1 doesn't really feel like a phase to me. It just feels like you're clicking the boss. There's not really much you can do. You can send like 2 specs on it, I guess. And then you're dodging the UFOs, which is just step between 2 tiles. That's a really reoccurring theme throughout the entire fight. Step between 2 tiles, like P1, P2, P3. Only P4 do you actually have to move a lot more. There are skulls coming out and you have to tank aside for some reason. Like, I don't know. It feels like you should have just been able to choose a side differently. Skulls, just tanking a couple of skulls and then ignoring the mechanic for the rest of the kill feels so off to me.
So
there's no reason you would tank like multiple skulls, right? You tank 4, you choose a side, and then you stop.
Mm-hmm. So in your opinion, like insanity, well, you would almost want it to be like maybe insanity and then like insanity quantum, like some like crazy shit and just continually sort of increasing to a certain point.
Yeah.
And it just didn't hit that mark basically.
No, definitely not. I feel like a lot of the invos could have been much harder. Like there's a lot of free invos. I get that maybe some invos should be easier than others, but I feel like the scaling should have been done much different. A 600 ToA sounds like a lot, but there's not many mechanics added onto it.
Yeah, it really is just a just be perfect, sort of like don't fuck up.
Be perfect. A lot of mechanics are non-consequential is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
For example, upset stomach. Let's go off a random one. Upset stomach is just pop a jug, but I don't know, like why would you even stir up if upset stomach was off? I guess you just hit the jug too late. If you're consistently hitting the jug too late, then I guess you need upset stomach off. But at that point, I feel like you should just not be able to clear the mechanic at all. Like, why does it give you that leniency in the first place? Yeah, some invos I also detailed in that pace bin were like, I feel like P1 should have felt like more of a phase because there's very little going on in the phase. So like, all the phantoms coming back would be really cool, like a Bears Brothers style. You know how like whenever they drain prayer, you can see like a visage of them on the screen. Like imagine that happens, but like any of the 4 bosses that you killed, or like in the same order or something. So order, you know how they were talking about like order mattering when they were first made ToA? I feel like that order mattering doesn't really matter anymore because yeah, order does matter, but there's like one meta. You'll do Baba, Kefri, Akkha, Zebak generally, or Zebak, Akkha.
Yep.
You never want to do Akkha first or second. It's just trolling because salts are way too good for that room. It's like hard to predict that kind of stuff. I don't blame them entirely for that. Like I think it was very ambitious to do something like that. But yeah, I feel like invos should have been way more impactful. Way more impactful invos, maybe fewer invos even. Like every invo should feel like you're actually upping the raid level. And then every invo should have a much higher point value associated with it to balance that out. Like if you're doing a 150, it should feel different from a 0 raid level, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, I mean, I'm just trying to think from Jagex's end. I mean, it's really tough to add so many things, and then you have to remember that there is a solo up to an 8-man variation of all this. So it's like, I'm just imagining, because I did vast majority solos of ToA. Like it's it would be easy for me to think of certain things they could do to make wardens more difficult and crazy, but ultimately I think in their end they're just trying to imagine like how painful this could potentially be with like 8 people and stuff, which I mean ultimately there is no real cap of difficulty. They could have just made it like absolutely insane. It's hard to gauge, I think, and I do kind of agree with you, and I think one of their biggest sort of desires was to make this accessible and to make it kind of like open to everybody, and just making it ridiculously difficult at some point may have just not been their ultimate goal.
Yeah, I feel like that just trumped every other goal, and they probably just forgot about it, and honestly they didn't care too much about it.
What do you, I mean, so I guess this is kind of branching off at this point. Like what are your desires for Colosseum? Like, because Colosseum's going to be endless is what it sounds like is what their plan is.
So when I first heard that they were going to try something like in RS3 with the streaking system, I was excited. I actually played a little bit of RS3 like when I went on a hiatus from OSRS. There was the whole Leviathan drama. I don't know if you heard about it or if you were there at the time. They removed plugins.
Oh, yeah.
I can get into that in a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah. When I first heard about it, I was excited with the Enrage, the streaking. Because I was like, damn, are we finally going to get an incentive like to do something, a monetary incentive? And GP matters. Like, even if you have enough GP, the thing about a GP incentive for something like that is it's a continuous reward. It's not like a one-time reward like Blood Torva. It's like you can feel good for keeping up something like your streak because like it's continuous. Like you see the money that you're gonna get if you keep it up, and the highest high reward feels more impactful. Like imagine you see like a T-bow in that chest, and it's like, holy shit, I'm risking a T-bow right now. But if I do, then I might get like a much higher chance. Maybe I'll get like 2 T-bows or something. You know, that kind of idea. I was excited initially, and then they proposed the rewards, and that excitement kind of went down the drain.
Yeah, there doesn't. I mean, I'm actually surprised how little they're really offering. Like, there's nothing. Like, I feel like this would be a place. I mean, don't get me wrong. The quiver is insane. Is an insane upgrade, but there's nothing that shouts like super excitement of something like you need this.
I swear it feels like they got the mid-level dungeon rewards and the Colosseum rewards like swapped accidentally.
Yeah. So what do you like think the rewards will be? Because one of my fears is they're just gonna start like shitting out just alkaballs, and I don't think that would be the way to go about it. It really should be based on uniques.
I agree. I don't really care about the normal rewards personally. I think they'll be like insignificant for the most part. I hope so anyway.
Now, did they patch the Bladed Moon? Or not patch, did they remove that? Did they scrap it?
I think they said they nerfed it. I don't remember exactly.
Okay.
It was gonna be like it was gonna make Fang really strong or something.
Yeah, I heard it was gonna make DDS pretty good as well.
Oh yeah. So I think they scrapped that.
Okay.
Yeah, Colosseum rewards are not exciting. Besides the quiver, I believe I haven't done calc since they redid the glaive, like buffed it slightly, but I don't think that actually does anything for it. So there's the quiver, which is good. Obviously, I don't need to really go into that. It's going to be the Infernal Cape equivalent for range, essentially. There is the glaive, which somehow ends up being useless because the only bosses that it would be good at have stat drain immunity. Fire runes are like, when is the last time you've used a fire rune? Sunfire runes. It's supposed to buff fire spells. Like, it's a ice demon only spell, I guess.
Yeah, I think in their head, they're hopefully they're seeing the kind of the long game, because it sounds like with Project Rebalance, they are trying to give things elemental weaknesses and stuff, which we'll see how that works out.
I don't know. I hope so. I feel like the rationale might have been, because it's really looking like it to me, the rationale might have been like, okay, this is supposed to be accessible content as well. That also scales up. Kind of a ToA 2, which is getting me really worried in the same way.
Mm.
You know how they said like waves 1 to 4 is supposed to be for fire capers, 4 to 8 is supposed to be like people who can't get infernal cape, and then 8 to 12 is supposed to be hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if they're making something for everybody, then most of the rewards are also supposed to be for everybody, which means they're bad. Like the prayer armor feels, sure, lore-wise it feels like, sure it fits, but like when are you using prayer armor? It's like not a very exciting reward to me. They have very few rewards in the first place. The Sunfire runes might actually just be for mid-level players, because I guess they use Fire Surge before they can get a Trident. I don't know.
What exactly was the glory system going to do exactly? Was it purely a flex, or did I for some reason I remember it having like some effect in Varlamore, like the citizens respect you or some shit.
They did mention that. They never went into detail, and yeah, it's supposed to be purely a flex inside a Colosseum, I believe. They said like you need to get to a certain glory threshold to get the cape, but everything after that is just a high score essentially, which is like cool, I guess, but I don't know why we need this because we had speedrunning already and times are high scores. I mean, it's nice, but I would like a monetary reward already, please. Maybe GP.
Do you think?
GP is cool.
Yeah, no, and I actually do think that the GP incentive will be actually quite high. I wouldn't be surprised if.
Really?
I wouldn't be surprised if Colosseum becomes the best moneymaker in the game.
What do you think is going to be worth that much?
Just they're literally just going to throw insane amounts of loot on there. Like I just know it. That's what Jagex does. Yeah, alkables, seeds, herbs, random
It's
probably
better
dragon
than next,
arrows.
which is like 20 mil an hour. You think?
I think so. If you're the best, like if you're really good at it and you're gonna make it far and you're gonna keep risking stuff, I think it's gonna be like.
What would you put it at? Just like a guess.
My guess would maybe be like 30 mil an hour if you're like on the best tier. And again, it could have been a lot more if they had like valuable uniques, but I think just loot wise, it's gonna be disgusting.
30 mil an hour is good and probably arguable. I feel like Next just set a horrible baseline because it's like, I want to say it's an easy boss to do in teams. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, it is.
Next is an easy boss.
Yeah.
You can AFK range it and you can make a good chunk of money. Maybe not 20 mil an hour, but like a good bit. Maybe 15. I don't know. So like anything that you're doing for money is competing with that. So if you compare 30 mil an hour, that's like double, which is good. But also I could just turn my brain off and like AFK Next, which is an option. I'm just trying to say, I feel like the gap should be like, there should be a big gap.
And the thing is, Next has something going for it. It has best in slot armor. That's really, really sought after. Colosseum's not having that, which we both agree is just kind of a disappointment.
Which is why I'm really thinking like maybe it won't be worth that much GP after all. But who knows? Maybe they do add alkables and stuff like you said.
Yeah, I just think they will most definitely, especially on release. They might nerf it eventually, but like my personal. Because usually when new content releases, I get really anxious about it, and I kind of want things to be solved before I start jumping in.
Fair.
But this time around, I really want to like enter Colosseum and try to get good immediately, because I do think initially it's going to be loot-wise, it's going to be pretty busted. It's going to be disgusting just to get people involved, and then they're going to make some nerfs probably to the loot table, because it's. If you're good at it, I'm assuming there's going to be some crazy scaling where you're just. Like every wave, you're just making an additional like 5 mil of loot or some shit. Like who knows?
I hope it's good. The rewards are the only thing I'm really worried about. I actually have faith in Jagex to make something hard with Colosseum. Surprising of me to say, because I don't say that very often. But
no, it'll be. I mean, and it's endless. So I mean, you just keep stacking on more and more shit that just becomes like unbearable. I do wonder
how they're gonna make that scale.
Who do you think? Like, okay, so do you think Glory, like, do you think this is going to be the ultimate flex minigame? Like something where like whoever's the highest Glory here really is like one of the best players? Or is this not, or do you think it's not really going to be the determining factor?
Early to say, but nah. Because they said like, they said like avoiding mistakes is also going to earn you glory, right?
Mm.
The thing is, I don't really trust them completely with counting mistakes unless it's like completely avoidable damage or something, because metas evolve in ways that you can't guess.
Yeah.
So like maybe something that would be counted as a mistake, you would avenge or deliberately tank instead, for example, like a hit.
Mm-hmm.
And then like that might be worth less glory overall, but it's like a faster time and people care about different things.
Good point.
So I feel like glory was probably going to be a flex, but like among the, again, this is very elitist of me to say, I guess, but like top tier players probably won't care about it. I'm just going to go ahead and make a wild guess. It'll be like getting your ranged cape quiver. Will probably be like getting your infernal cape. Like it's a flex if you're doing it for the first time. But like once you have one, it's like these days everybody has an infernal cape, right? More or less.
Would you want them to make it so there's like cosmetics for high, super high completions? Something like pimp out your quiver and pimp out your other stuff.
That sounds nice. Yeah, why not? Yeah, do like a fucking, I don't know, like 5 rerun. I don't know how hard it's gonna be. So like,
ooh, actually, I'm thinking, because definitely there's gonna be a pet from this.
yeah.
And I'm thinking, what if there was a super high glory count you need to get a transmog for it?
Ooh, now you're cooking.
Yeah, that would probably be the way.
I love that. That's a great idea.
What are you a pet hunter by any chance? Like, do you care?
I don't have the like determination to pet hunt.
I see.
I can't like just go and do a boss. If it's boring, I'm not gonna do it for more than like 10 minutes probably. So, but I do like respect pet hunters. I think it's cool.
Okay.
How many pets did you have?
Oh, I have 32 pets, but I have like 60 when you count all the duplicates I have. I have just a stupid amount of duplicates.
Sheesh.
Yeah. I mean,
nine of life, I guess.
9 of the duplicates are Sarachnis pets, so that's one thing. But like, I have 2 bloodhounds, 3 court pets, 4 nightmares, like just a bunch of random.
My Sarachnis, is it because it's a good source of eggs?
No, it's. I mean, I have way too many eggs. I think I have like 160,000 or something like that, something ridiculous. But I need clue scrolls. That's the efficient way for our Iron Men to get clues.
Makes sense.
Let's talk about. I guess we kind of touched on this, the polling system.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on like everything kind of passing? You brought up Mod Mac K, bringing up the results of like only 4 things had failed.
Yeah. So yeah, I wish people would approach with a why mentality rather than why not. And I think it's okay to vote selfishly as well. Like, if there's something that you think you might not enjoy, I think it's okay to vote no to it. That's the kind of supposed to be the point of the poll, right? You're not voting for other players. You're not voting like so they can enjoy the content, and you're not gatekeeping them. That's for sure. It's just there so you can like vote based on your interests, and then if it comes into the game, that's why I'm thinking people probably just don't mind whatever comes into the game. Generally speaking, they just have faith and they'll play whatever, which is why like I don't really have complaints with what's actually coming into the game. My only complaint is that I'm not getting any content.
Yeah, I mean I feel like there is. I mean, you are just on that super niche like area where, I mean, you're just among a handful of players that really crave just crazy content. I mean, and like you said, like Awaken didn't scratch that. Well, it scratched the itch, but it's not replayable really, unless you just have bills to spend just for fun, and that's not
such a shame.
You kind of want to make money. But I don't know. And again, Colosseum's not going to be giving those rewards that are like, I feel like at that level of content, but at least I think that the GP per hour will be quite high. That's my personal opinion. I don't know what's going to happen.
I hope you're right.
But what do you think about like, so you know, there's sailing coming out. Probably, I mean, I'm imagining 2025. Tomorrow there's the Winter Summit, so I'm excited to see what they're planning on.
2025.
But that I'd imagine sailing doesn't come out till 2025 at some point. Do you think that they're gonna be adding like some sailing raids or anything? Do you have? Are you excited for sailing in any way?
Nah, I don't really enjoy skilling. It's a means to an end to me.
Okay.
I haven't really heard of people that. I mean, I guess they exist since sailing passed, but like the people I hang out with don't enjoy skilling generally either. It's just they do it so they can max and they don't touch the skill again.
Have you done Sepulcher?
I love Sepulcher. Yeah.
Would you?
Sepulcher's good. Sepulcher's like one of the few examples of something that's actually good. I just
totally
remembered
agree.
one of the casts that you did when you mentioned that. Remember you were talking with somebody and you were like, I wish there was like a floor 6 and infinite floor 6 or something.
Yes.
Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, no, I've been wanting them to really explore movement-based mini games more.
Post set PB. What's your set PB?
Like 519, I think.
519.
Yeah.
God damn, that's pretty solid.
Let me see, actually.
That's like 524. What's your floor 5?
Yeah, no, sorry, not 519, 523.
523. Damn.
Yours is 524?
I think so.
Okay.
Let me post just to make sure.
Yeah.
PBHS. It is 524. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I beat you by a tick then, 523.4.
God damn, I got to go back there now.
I know. No, but I mean, you know, not to flex even further, but this was just over the course of one evening because ultimately I'm not just running PBs. I feel obligated to loot. So
gotcha.
Just one of the evenings I was like, you know what, I'm really just going to reset until I can get a nice the thing is like, I mean, you need a perfect layout to really compete. And
yep, if you're resetting floor 1, it's 1 in 632, I think. Yeah. 1 in 32 to get the perfect layout.
Yeah, because it's 2 or that's well after you get the perfect floor 1, you're saying, because it's 4 times 4 times 2
it's
times
4 times
2.
4 times 2.
And then
after you get the floor 1, yeah.
Yeah, after you get the floor 1, yeah, you're right. Okay. So it is rare, and I mean, ultimately, I could just loot when I don't get the proper floors and stuff, but yeah, I'm not one of those players as well that's going to reset floor 1s. I mean, I could, but
it's very RNG heavy.
It is. It really is. And then there's also like one of the most annoying things, in my personal opinion. Technically, it's not RNG because you could actually just be patient and lose ticks and wait for like yellows. But one of my least favorite things about Sepulcher is the fact that you could be underneath a yellow and you just will get teleported back without being notified, basically. Like, it's just like there's no way to avoid it. Now, there is a way to avoid it technically. You could anticipate the timing of when these yellows are going to start portaling again, but like ultimately like nobody wants to do that. So I personally wish that things wouldn't teleport you forward or backward until 1 tick after they've appeared.
That would change things slightly. It might actually like make something slower too, if it also applies for blue.
Yeah, no, it would apply for blues, but you'd have an additional tick as well afterwards, so you have more time to actually analyze the floor.
Right.
That's personally what I would like. Also, I just think one of the most annoying things about Sepulcher is just, and this is because I loot, I just feel like the looting and the grappling over things and there's things with there's too many ticks just with the animations of getting over to something and looting something. Like, I just wish it was more rapid. Just wish you could just like move faster. Like,
yeah.
Just
give
give me
looting is kind of.
Yeah, it slows things down. It's like a thieving room. It's like mini thieving rooms. It's like, oh my God, I just lost the flow.
Yeah,
But
the thieving itself takes like 7 ticks.
yeah, it's just like you're just sitting there, and then there's obviously like with the grapples, there's this weird like move one tile adjacent to it, which is just like, can you fix this, please? This is not fun. But no, I mean, seriously, in the future, like there is so much potential for sort of like what you're saying, like a permanent sort of floor 6. It doesn't have to have anything to do with Sepulcher, but like one of my proposals was like a sort of like a Cave of Wonders from the classic Aladdin cartoon. and like you go down there and the entire objective is to run through it, grab the lamp at the end of the thing, and then escape with it without, you know, getting hit. And then the lamp is ultimately
Rise of the Six.
What?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Barrow's Rise of the Six is how that works, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think Nolan mentioned that in podcast too. The whole idea is like after you loot, you have to get out.
Yeah. Like that kind of stuff. Yeah. So something like that. And then, you know, if you have enough time to spare, there's urns that you can loot, and it's actually worth your time to loot these urns because it's genuinely going to give you like good rewards. Just things like that. And you know, it's even like some sort of endless floor 6 where not like endless, but it's like a repeatable thing that there's really no breaks. You just keep going and you try to just see how far you can get. It's just, it sounds really enjoyable to me. So
yeah, it does sound like a lot of fun. I love Sepulchre. I wish movement was more of a theme especially in bossing. Like I love PvM and especially with next, like I want more bosses that force you to move around.
Yeah.
Cool, I think
it's true. Next is a good example of it. Okay, so let me just ask, this is just based on some of your notes, like what kind of PvM is your favorite, and what do you, I guess, appreciate about OSRS in general?
So I really appreciate the friends I've made here. Like I didn't think I could network this much with people over a game. It's crazy. Some people are just too kind. The game itself, there was a lot of novelty getting into PvM for the first time. The progression in this game is just like beautiful. Like it makes you feel really good. Progression feels like real progress, you know? It's not just like idle cookie clicker kind of stuff, or like Clash of Clans like waiting or kind of stuff. It's like everything you do, you feel like you've earned. Your achievements genuinely feel earned at any stage of the game. I love that about the game. What else did you say?
What kind of, well, here, let me actually just ask, what's your favorite PvM content? If you could grind something repeatable, what's the best thing in game?
If I had to choose one thing. God. I guess I'm going to say next. Actually, Awakened bosses are really good. Next and Awakened bosses are my favorite, probably.
What's your favorite, I mean, I know it's not ToA. What's your favorite raid out of Tob or Cox?
So funnily enough, it is ToA. I both
That's
hate
so
ToA,
funny.
but I still do it anyway.
That is funny. So you're disappointed because it could have even been better. Like it could have been really, really good, and that's what you're mostly disappointed about.
Yeah.
But you still enjoy it technically.
I still enjoy it. I enjoy it as well because it's what got me into boosting. Just like a good bit. I started boosting like Fang kits, carries, like a month after ToA release, and that made me a good bit. It was fun. It was a new challenge. Like it was a breath of fresh air after we figured everything out. Gives me a little bit of an incentive, but the downside of doing something like boosting is like now I'm completely desensitized to every kind of drop you can get in the game. Nothing compares to boosting GP.
Do you think so? Scythe recently got buffed. Oh, by the way, what were your thoughts on people just getting scammed of their blood runes from the well? Yeah. Now dude. If I hadn't been awake at 3 a.m, I would have lost over 200,000 blood runes. My well was just completely stocked. I just shoved all my vials of blood in there with the equivalent amount of blood runes.
Like I said, I don't have any GP concerns anymore. Yeah.
I mean, technically, it wouldn't have it would have been annoying, but ultimately, my accounts would have been just fine. It just would have been just like okay, there's 100 mil down the drain or whatever. But what are your thoughts on the Scythe itself getting that buff? Are you satisfied with the?
Yeah, it's good. I think it's like not like overtly powerful, and I think they did a good job. That's a good choice to buff the accuracy of all things.
And the Fang, you're okay with the slash getting removed?
Oh, totally. I mean, if it was up to me, I'd nerf Fang much more too. But That's my HLC coming out, I guess.
What are your thoughts on like the 3 weapons, Mace, Saildor, and Rapier, kind of being not really useful or really fun to use at this point because they don't have double accuracy rolls and they're kind of shitty? Is it fine the way they are?
I think it's fine for Rapier to be outdated, I guess. Kind of a shame that Mace is. Mace also feels really nice to use. I'm sure you've heard people like say the sound and animation is very satisfying on Mace. I kind of wish that like entire armor set Nightmare, every Nightmare drop is useless. Kind of a shame. I feel like they could have like added a small effect to it or something to make it relevant again.
That's hopefully the plan. I mean, that is included in Project Rebalance.
Oh, is it?
Is to make Inquisitors change something about Inquisitors. I personally think there's just so many things they could do. One of them is guaranteeing a Dragon Warhammer with a full Inquisitors set. What are your thoughts on that?
It's kind of awkward to guarantee a Dragon Warhammer of all things. Like it's specifically Dragon Warhammer. I feel like
there is a little bit of lore attached, just brief. So when you're running to Nightmare, you see those guys with like the 2-handed warhammers.
Oh, right.
There could be some sort of lore attachment where this Inquisitor set somehow has an effect with the Dragon Warhammer. So it is odd and it feels arbitrary, but ultimately you could tie it in somehow.
I guess so, but the thing is, it just shifts the problem. I think the problem with Inquisitor is that it's a Dragon Warhammer only set of armor in the first place. You put it on so you can hit a Dragon Warhammer and you take it off.
Yeah, I
mean,
it's
worth it, but like
like the armor getting buffed as well would be necessary in my opinion. I just think like making the accuracy, like giving the whole set maybe like, because I believe the full set passive effects like 2.5% accuracy and damage,
something like that. Yeah,
like if they could increase the full set to like 10%, like that still wouldn't be crazy, but it would at least be like, okay, Mace is going to be really nice with this now, and that gives more value to the Mace. And then
again, that's probably a simple way to buff it, and I wouldn't be completely opposed to that. But if it was up to me, I'd add something interesting. Then again, like I can't expect them to add something interesting to everything all the time, but I want to see it like once or twice before I'm satisfied, you know?
That's fair.
Like I want to see like an occasional like bring an interesting weapon and then do your direct upgrades or whatever you do for like another several months, maybe even a year, and then bring another interesting weapon again.
With Raids 4, what do you want? I mean, we'd have no idea what Raids 4 is going to be, where it's going to be, but like I guess like rewards wise, maybe what are you thinking? Like what is the next mega rares that they could release?
I don't have anything specific, especially not for a sailing themed raid. I had a random
what if it's not sailing themed?
Item idea though.
Okay, let's hear it.
Which was in the paste bin I sent you, so I'll have to pull it up again. Remember what it was more or less.
Which paste bin is it?
It's a very complicated item, I guess, which is kind of what I was going for, to be fair.
No. Is it the first, second, or third link?
It's the one that's called high level item idea.
Oh, I see it.
I was still working on it, but in essence, it would be a ring. It could be something else too, I guess. Should I just read it out, or should I just
explain it? It's short enough. You can just explain it.
Sure.
But yeah.
You feel the solemn weight of an oath being sworn would be the flavor text, and then the first 3 attacks you lose 50% max it. So like you have to like kind of build it up. You can't just put it on. And then the ring throbs with power, sapping your vitality and attunement. And then it increases your max hit by 20%. Like after like it restores the drain you had earlier and gives you a shit ton of max hit. So like it's really powerful, right? But then it's gonna come with a lot of damage. It's gonna come with a lot of downside, which is gonna be 3% of your HP level as damage. So like 3 HP when you're at 99. And maybe prayer train as well. So like it's supposed to be like a burst ring kinda. All healing sources are blocked. You can't eat, you can't heal from blood fury, you can't blood barrage. So like it has to be a conscious choice to put that on.
But you're still able to eat and drink potions? Okay, you literally just cannot heal.
you cannot heal whatsoever as long
Okay.
as the ring is on. You've sworn an oath or whatever. That's the flavor anyway. And then it also has like the Soulreaper Axe drop off, where if you don't attack for several ticks, then the effect expires. It has that, so if you don't attack for several ticks or you take it off, then the effect immediately expires, which means you can start eating again, but you're not going to have the added damage anymore. So the idea is, since you can't heal from anything else, your HP is the resource there. You can only keep the ring on as long as you can manage to stay alive. And the reason this is different from something like, say, Ruinous Prayers, because like Ruinous Prayers was like, it's not a choice. Ruinous Prayers is not a choice. If you took the prayers, then you're taking the chip damage with like the deflect prayers too, right? Whereas with the ring, if you think you're in danger or you can't really handle it anymore, you can take it off. And you can't just like haphazardly put it on either, because it has a cooldown. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
kind
no,
of a complicated item.
I'm just thinking of like so I'm just thinking, for example, non-PvM, where you're just killing, you're just doing Slayer or something like this. This would be the ring you literally bring to any sort of like basic mob thing, because you're literally getting 20% extra damage.
Right. Until you lose all your HP.
Yeah, but you don't.
At which point, I guess you'd have
die
to take it
from
off
it,
and
right?
heal up. Yeah, no, I don't want it to actually be able to kill you.
So you could just camp at like 1 HP as long as you have Protect Melee.
You could, but at 1 HP, it would stop applying its effects.
Oh, I see. I see.
So like you can't proc a Ruby Bolt on 1 HP. Same.
Interesting.
Difference.
Interesting. Yeah, this would be extremely fucking powerful.
It would be mega rare worthy, surely.
Yeah, for sure. Interesting. I mean, I always love hearing like different ideas. One of with DT2, you can see the drop tables. They're giving out a bunch of javelins, and I just have a feeling like especially with the ranged Project Rebalance, where they're going to add like 3 different range styles potentially. I think ballistas might start coming in handy again, and I think they're going to try to bring out a better ballista.
I don't know how I feel about that. That seems like a lot of effort for them too. It's like, it feels kind of out of place to me. I personally,
the range styles.
Personally, I feel like Slash, Stab, and Crush are awkward as they are.
Really?
Yeah.
So you would rather it be more simple and just be melee?
Yeah, because I don't think that's where the interesting thing is. Like I said, it's more metagaming, and it's cool that you can have different items, I guess, but it doesn't change my gameplay experience at the end of the day. Once I have my inventory, I have my inventory that I'm going to go to a boss with.
But
like, progression is kind of out the window for me at this point, since I haven't really had anything to progress towards for a while.
That's fair.
Maybe that's why I'm kind of biased.
Yeah, but having different attack styles is changing up your meta. Like as soon as the meta is the meta, then that's what it is. But ultimately, those attack styles are what is defining the meta.
Yeah.
I guess in my opinion, I think it is going to be cool. And again, there's so much balancing that needs to happen with this, and there would be a lot of changes that need to be made, and some things would probably be annoying initially, and there would need to be changes made, because like every single boss would need to be like rebalanced somewhat to have these new range styles. But I think it's exciting personally, because it would add variety to your range arsenal. So it's not just always Blowpipe or T-Bow. There is a little
better than
bit of
nothing.
variety. Yeah.
Like I said, that's kind of one of the things that I would vote for, because why not rather than why. I like bringing that up a lot, because I feel like it's something people don't really consider.
Here you have this thing called reactive versus proactive gaming. Can you explain that?
Oh, I forgot about that. But yeah, I feel like a lot of boss mechanics are just predictable, and so you anticipate things in advance. You know where to move. Generally, you'll have a set of tiles to move. Or the reaction time is like you can only make something you can only give a certain amount of time to react, right? Like the game operates at 0.6 seconds. So the fastest you can react to something is no Stun Awaken Leviathan, but they're not going to do that, obviously. So Like the least time you have to react to something is like 0.6 seconds, and the average human reaction time is like 200 ms or something. Anyway, that's a kind of a tangent, but what I'm trying to say is I think a lot of boss mechanics are proactive, meaning once you're past the knowledge gate of knowing how a boss works, the boss all of a sudden becomes easier, much easier. The difficulty of a lot of bosses in the game aren't from mastering the mechanics, because the mechanics apply the same almost everywhere, more or less. If you know how to move in the game and click things to attack and switch gear, in prayer, like every boss is just a reflavor of another, it feels like to me. I'm probably being very reductive and harsh, but
so you think reactive is the better route? Is that what you're claiming?
No. I think reactive is what happens a lot. Oh, sorry. Reactive is the better route. Yeah, that's what I want to say. Proactive is generally how things go.
I guess I kind of see this as like, I've brought it up in other casts, but we've reworded it, and obviously yours is more precise. But we think of like dynamic and static sort of bosses where you do a boss enough and it becomes muscle memory. And
exactly.
Ultimately, and again, like it definitely reduces difficulty, but I think there's like part of it that's like, for some reason, and this probably affects different players differently, like for sure a dynamic boss or a reactive boss would be much more difficult long term. But I think there is a little bit of fun in mastering something and getting the muscle memory down so that you're just in the flow state sort of, and you can just really enjoy with kind of turning your brain off, kind of like driving.
Yeah. I mean, it's neat, and it's definitely a kind of play style. I'm just saying, like, I think there's much less reactive in the game than proactive content.
I see.
And I think there should be both. I'm not saying I completely eradicate.
I see.
You know?
Would you want the Colosseum, for example, to be more reactive based? Something
Absolutely.
that is a lot more dynamic.
Absolutely, yeah. I think Colosseum should test like every single skill you have in the game, like reflexes as well. You need to react to something spawning or something like in the Inferno, and you need to pray or you need to solve a wave like that. That shit's really fun in the Inferno. I hope they do it in the Colosseum as well.
Okay, and then you have metagaming and optimization versus boss mechanics. Can you go into that?
Yeah, it's more or less what I've been saying though.
Okay.
Well, what I meant by metagaming is like
can you explain that?
It ties into like proactive gameplay as well with what I meant.
I see.
It's just like you figure out the strats for something. You set up your inventory. You know exactly what to do in every room, and then you go do them. I wrote metagaming versus metagaming optimizations versus like the boss doesn't throw different things at you. It's all predictable. You'll do the same thing like 90% of the time at most places, which gets you into a flow. Like that's the advantage of it, but the disadvantage is that it becomes mundane after a while, in my opinion, anyway.
So you I recall you saying you were pretty disappointed in ToA, solo ToAs being the meta.
Yeah.
So would you prefer, are you one of those players that would prefer team content to always be more efficient in team scales?
I wouldn't say always, but I think we suffer from a lack of team content a lot. Like I just miss the days where I would just play with my buddies, not have to feel bad about not being efficient, because I like playing the game efficiently. Like that's my play style. And so the only two bosses where you can really do that, just because solo isn't feasible, is Tob and Nex.
Yeah,
you have to go with your buddies, and even then, like Nex is a duo.
They did a pretty good job with ToA. We were talking about this in the past couple casts. ToA did a way better job than, for example, like Chambers. Like at least when you're doing a higher team size ToA, you don't feel like you're trolling that much. Like, yeah, optimally, like solos will be slightly more efficient when you're just calculating pure, purples per hour. But it definitely is much, much, much closer. And you're probably having a much better time in teams. Well, depending on what your play style is. I personally prefer
depending on your play style and depending on who you're playing with.
That's true. That's a good
The thing
point.
is, if you're playing with like 5 people, that's 4 more chances people fuck up. And I'm not just saying that because like you're playing with like Billy Bob or something. It's just because like even the best players like just fuck up more
But
often than the.
you also have the case where you're in a solo, you make one mistake, and you've just thrown the entire raid.
Yeah, about that too. So I think there's different avenues of skill expression that are cool, and some of them are less explored than others. What I realized with ToA, I was not a very consistent player before ToA. Like I'd make mistakes fairly often, and ToA kind of taught me to iron that out. Recovering from a mistake is a skill, and ToA gives you only one chance to do that generally. If you make a mistake, you're probably getting hit for 70, and you better recover after that. So I do appreciate that about it. I think it's good in that regard. I don't like mechanics that punish you too hard, but yeah, you should be encouraged to like recover from a mistake rather than just having it completely wipe you off the spot. Other avenues for skill expression are like knowledge gates, like I said, is what I'm calling them. I don't know if they actually have an official term in some kind of theory or whatever, but just, having a certain amount of knowledge of the boss mechanics or how things work. And then that's an avenue of skill expression. But then once you have that, there's not much to do. Reaction time, being able to like solve waves and stuff in Inferno, that kind of stuff. Not a whole lot of mechanics to go into in terms of clicks, I guess, like click fast for switching prayers and gear and stuff, but there's not a whole lot that challenges that. I guess the biggest thing is like the Awakened bosses challenge that a good bit. I hope Colosseum will be at that intensity, like at least as hard as like Awakened Vardorbis in Rage Phase or Leviathan in Rage Phase at like waves 8 to 12. I really hope so.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm pretty excited about that. What sort of changing gears, what are your thoughts on CAs in particular, difficulty wise, and even the reward space for it? Are you satisfied?
Mm.
And have you completed your Zuckhelm just for
Yeah, I've had one for a while. I held off for like 6 months on 4 tasks just because I couldn't be bothered to find teammates, and I ended up buying boosting for those.
Sounds like me. With ToA release, at least.
No, I wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know anything about that, right?
Yeah, GM has felt more like a grind than anything. I didn't really feel much when I got GM. Maybe that's just because I'm tone deaf. Like I said, like I haven't really felt like anything is much of an accomplishment these days. If I'm not the first to do something, I'm not very excited about it anymore.
Damn, rip. You better get on that Colosseum grind then.
I will. Yeah. I'll try. I need to like practice Inferno and stuff.
Yep.
The rewards could be a little better. I don't think they should add anything that makes it like necessary, like that you have to have a GM helm. It's kind of hard to balance. I guess it's like kind of fine as it is. Don't touch it much, I guess.
I see.
If anything, maybe there could have been a few more cool cosmetic rewards, because you don't do Slayer that often when you're going bossing, and like you can't really show off the Zuckhelm.
Yeah, I mean they have the hilt. I think the Grandmaster hilt's ugly as fuck, personally.
I don't like any of the hilts, just period. They're so small and tiny, they look like a dagger.
I like the Master one more, but I have to flex the Grandmaster because I have an ego. So, but this this thing is just like, bruh, it looks like a McDonald's. Like,
bro, I feel like
it's just too much going. It's too bulky. It's too much going on. Like, I wish it was just more simple. It's just yellow. It's just weird.
Yeah.
But yeah. Personally, I wish there was a few more rewards for GM. At least, like, I wish, like, one, I wanted the fucking DK's teleport at this point.
Oh yeah, that would be convenient.
It's like, can we please just do this already?
Remind me of like Addy's idea a while ago, where they should have made it so that when you finish the CAs for like a certain boss, you get a buff for that boss. Not like a damage buff or anything, but like a convenience buff.
Interesting.
Would be nice. Like if you finish all DK CAs, then you get the DK's teleport, for example.
Oh, you would. Oh, that would be crazy if it was like every single boss has some thing to it.
Yeah.
So like personally, I think like a nice DK's teleport would be nice. And somebody, I think it was Joe Watermelon, that brought up the idea where like whenever there's a new update that forces you to like, you know, upkeep your GM, like for example, like when they come out with the DT2 CAs, what would be cool is instead of like having a backwards incentive of like, okay, just now you're forced to do VCAs, you're not going to get anything new from it, but here, like go do this to get your Zuck helm back. They should, every time they release new CAs like that, they should add another reward to it. So it feels better re-achieving your Zuck helm or re-achieving whatever.
I feel like that could work well with what Addy suggested. With like adding boss specific ones, because then you're not like scrambling around trying to find a reward every time you want to update.
That's fair. That's fair. I just feel like there would be maybe way too many if you're going to go to like every single boss. There's just going to be like,
yeah, maybe, but then also like it doesn't have to be big, and B, they don't have to redesign it again. Once it's there, it's there. They're not going to delete a boss.
I see.
I hope not anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, if they would delete one boss, if they would delete one boss, what boss would you delete from the game?
Is that like not like a non-hypothetical, or is this like you're asking me? Because
yeah, I'm asking you. If you wanted to delete one boss from the game, which one would you?
Normal
delete?
Nightmare. Just delete that shit. Like just delete it. I mean,
you suffered there, right?
Yeah, I mean that place is just a total shit show of a boss. I mean, I just wish they would delete Normal Nightmare and just make Fasani's be in the middle of that thing, so it looks a little bit more thematic of like, okay, this is the Nightmare boss, and then even make Fasani's duoable or like up to 4 people or something. Like why not?
I like that idea.
Like why not just allow it to be massable?
Yeah.
I think you could actually have some really cool metas too, especially if it wasn't scalable either. So it's like, it still is the exact same fight. You can just bring more people in. So ultimately, it's still going to be more efficient to solo it just because of the downtime you'd have to take into consideration. But if you just wanted to have a more pleasant experience with the homies, you know, you could just go in as like a 4-man or something, or even up to 5, I guess.
Totally.
And I just wish they would just clear the fucking Normal Nightmare at this point. Like, no, I understand there's people doing it, but they don't understand like how troll of a boss it is. It's got horrible drop rates, and it's just nonstop chip damage. There's no guarantee one-shotting the parasite or the husks. It's just it's a mess. It's a total mess. So delete that.
I went only mildly dry, so I'm not complaining too much, but I went mildly dry on the pet. On that, I think I'm like 1.5 rate total. It's kind of hard to say because you don't have like Normal Nightmare, KC. It doesn't differentiate between solo, 5-man, etc. But I think I'm like around 1.5 rate. So yeah, I kind of get your pain. Maybe not as much as you went dry, but I kind of get your pain.
I mean, the thing is, like, my log isn't... I mean, it was brutal because I did normal solo Nightmares running there every fucking kill and using Phoenix necklaces and one-tick prayer flicking, and I didn't have a Blood Fury, and I didn't have a Sanguinesti and all this other garbage, but like...
Oh boy.
Ultimately, my log looks fine, especially now. I mean, because I got a mace after like 2.5x rate of the mace itself, but then I got an additional mace like 100 kills later. So like my log right now looks pretty good. The only thing I'm missing is an Eldritch and the Parasitic Egg. So, but yeah, I mean, Nightmare itself is just brutal. I mean, that place I have been advocating to just improve the drop rates. Like, you just need to. Or you need to make the items really worthwhile. But even, like, I just feel like even if they were to improve the items, you need to increase the drop rates of those things. Like, they're way too rare.
I like that. On that topic, let me ask you as an Iron Man as well. How do you feel about having some sort of bad luck protection on all bosses?
That's an interesting topic because... we've just never seen it in Old School of like genuine bad luck protection.
Yeah.
And I think my idea of bad luck prevention or protection is to just make it so items that feel like gear progression aren't crazy drop rates. So as long as items don't really exceed the like 250, like in my opinion, no item that is like of worth of like, you know, not some like third age is not in this category, but any sort of like gear progression item that has use in PvM shouldn't be above like 250 hours. I think 250 hours is like the cap it should ever be.
Right. I guess the only thing I have about that, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I have is how do you decide which ones have use? Like, do you decide after the fact, after people start using it and developing meta?
No. I think there just is a category. Obviously, it's slightly subjective, but like third age is very clearly this is not gear progression. This is like fancy stuff that you can get.
Yeah, that one's obvious.
Even something like corpse shields is debatable, but ultimately I do see those as viable upgrades. So even
you mean like any weapon and armor, for example, that's
pretty much.
Yeah. 250 hours.
Yeah, I think and that is efficient. Like you can still be inefficient and have shitty gear and have to go way drier, but like I think
I mean fair.
Yeah.
For the whole log or just for single item?
For single items. For I mean that is really the cap it should be. As soon as you've released an item, like when Nightmare was first released, orbs took 600 hours. It's just ridiculous. Like what are you doing here? And on release it was even crazier rarity. That was after a bunch of like buffs.
Yeah.
So
I remember when they accidentally turned off drops for like a couple days or something. I don't know if it was normal or Fasani.
It was like the first like 8 hours of Fasanis.
Yeah.
Just grinding that shit. Nobody was getting a drop. And then they weren't even transparent about it. They're like, yeah, no, everyone's just getting really unlucky. Just, like 69 times the drop rate, basically.
Oh, whoops.
Yeah. I was like, God damn it. But, yeah, so bad luck protection, that is ultimately, I don't think we should go down the route of just like guaranteeing stuff at a certain point or even drastically improving drop rates. I just think there is something sort of iconic about going 8x rate. It sucks ass. But like, I guess part of me is just like, I kind of like that. I kind of like that people can just go stupidly dry. It's kind of like iconic and it kind of is fun.
Fair enough.
It's fun to like see people go stupid dry and super dry.
As long as it's not happening to you, right?
I mean, for me, I'm in a blessed position because I'm a streamer, so I can like at least just like create content on it. But yeah, for the average Joe, going hella dry is not fun for sure. But what are your thoughts on it? Do you want there to be bad luck protection?
Yeah, I think I would like that. Though I can't decide on which items or stuff like. But in general, it sounds kind of like people quit. I feel like people would quit, or at least I would. If I didn't get an item I really needed for like hundreds of hours, like you mentioned. So like maybe do something like they did with Wardorvis, although don't clamp it at the start because that's cringe.
Oh, so you're not saying necessarily once you've gone a certain dryness, it's increasing, but simply reducing the variance. So like giving invisible drops ultimately, so you can't go as crazy dry or it's not as common.
No, I am actually saying change the threshold. But I'd have to show you the graphics for it to make sense. Have you seen the drop rate graphs of what it would have been versus what it is right now, like for the rings?
I don't think I've seen a visual of it.
Let me pull it up real quick. I made a graph of this earlier.
Yeah.
Earlier, I mean like 2 years, whenever it came out. Here's what it looks like for Ultor Ring. Red is the normal drop rate system, as black is the rework drop rate system. You can see there's a point they cross, and before that you're much less likely to get it with the new drop rate system. But then after that, bad luck protection kicks in. So I would like something like it's red up until the crossing point, and after that it's black. If that makes sense.
Interesting. Wait, sorry.
Ultimately,
so
it doesn't.
The black was the normal drop rates that we like, the drop system that we have, and red
is the normal drop system.
Oh, red's the normal. Okay.
Black is bad luck protection. You can see how you're unlikely to get it, less likely to get it than.
And this is for Ultor, and the Ultor.
This is for Ultor, yeah.
Is a 1 in 1200 ish or something. Right?
1 in 1083, if I'm not making that number up roughly, is what it boils down to. I think.
I see.
Yeah, I think people going dry for several hundreds of hours is unhealthy. And I know you're not entitled to items, but if we go down that rabbit hole, you're not entitled to anything. And like, then I would start arguing like, well, great, then I'm just gonna do all the hard PvM and like give me all the gold, and nobody's ever with me on that.
In regards to the DT2 bosses and how like they drop stuff, I wish there was also a rare chance of just getting the item at 1kc. Like just there is a chance of you just getting the drop without the invisible drop system, but it's just a rarer chance. Yeah. Like
the clamp, the lower drop rate until you reach that crossing point just feels so bad.
Oh, it does. It does. And as soon as you get the vestige, it's like, well, I don't want to keep grinding this. This feels bad.
Yeah. So. I don't know how they could say. I think they said like, we like this drop rate system. We'll keep experimenting this in the future. Like, I haven't heard of anybody who likes this drop rate system personally.
Yeah, it's not as fun. I disagree with it too. Like there are advantages to it for sure, but ultimately I think the vast majority of players don't like it. So
I think it actually indirectly ends up in introducing less rings to the game because most players won't grind past whatever that threshold is.
Totally. Yeah, no, totally. And the fact that they're all like untradeable stuff, especially the axe. Like the axe, there's going to be way fewer axes in the game.
Oh yeah.
Than there would have been if it was just like tradable stuff that you could just attach.
Dude, it was ridiculous that axe was worth like over max cash when it first came out.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, it did have that glitch where you're just hitting like 200.
Yeah, but surely that's not why people are buying it, right?
Yeah. No, it wasn't. I think it's just the fact that people are just insanely wealthy and they just want to have something that's new.
Yeah.
I mean, people are so wealthy nowadays. Just everything shits out gold. Like you're just making you're printing GP basically, just playing this game.
Boosting is very prevalent as well.
Oh,
Next
that
exists.
Too. Yeah.
Next is huge. Bring invention one. Yep. Shamanism could have been invention if they.
Shamanism would have been. I feel like, in my opinion, would have been a bit convoluted. I feel like it would have added so many like untradeable sort of like armor effects and sets and stuff, which don't get me wrong, if a player like you would probably massively enjoy something like that, but I feel like it would have just added so much random stuff to the game that would have just been super complicated.
Yeah, too much complexity as a time is not good, and I understand that, and a lot of people don't want that either. But like gradually adding a little bit over time at an acceptable, there has to be like an acceptable rate for it. Adding nothing is just like so boring.
That's fair.
That's why I want. That's the one thing I've been saying. Well, generally, when I say like when I'm advocating for adding hard content to the game in some way, shape, or form, it's always met with like, "Oh, you just want all the updates for yourself." It's like, no, I want one update for myself. Maybe. I think that's kind of fair to ask for, and then I won't bother you for a couple of years. I don't know if everybody else shares that sentiment, but it's like I just want one thing to grind out, you know. One thing that actually offers a little more of a challenge.
It
doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
It doesn't have to be only for me too. Like it can still be like ToA, but just execute it right, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. And it's just tough because there are such few players like you and No Monkey, Noob Type, all these just total Giga gamers. So it's hard to just get you guys what you want because you're just in such a small minority.
That is the unfortunate reality.
Yeah. So here's a topic from Hassani. He's asking, aside from Butterfly, what is some tech that you feel like a majority of OSRS players should know but are unaware of?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I don't know if there's like one piece of generally applicable thing you can do anywhere that I guess I'll just throw one randomly. It's very niche, but there's like the mage flinching you can do at Inferno. That's one that people don't really know much about. If you splash on something, with magic, it counts as a melee attack. And then flinching also exists, and people like know what flinching is. And I just recently learned this from G Challenge M's video, by the way. Flinching is essentially when something is off attack cooldown, if it hasn't attacked you for 8 or more ticks, it becomes flinchable, which means the next time you attack it, it can't attack but you back until at least half of its attack cooldown is elapsed. So let's say you're flinching something with a 4 tick attack speed, right? You wait for it to attack you first, wait for 12 ticks to elapse, because 4 ticks for attack cooldown to go down, and then 8 ticks for the flinch timer to go down. And then after that, if you attack it again, it won't attack you back for 2 ticks, because 4 divided by 2 is 2.
Yeah, that's...
Like, it doesn't come in very often, and people don't know exactly how much time they have, but it's a neat little mechanic you can use. And like in tandem with like the mage splashing, you can use it in Inferno to set up off ticks sometimes if you're behind a pillar and you have like the double range mage wave. You can like flinch the mage, for example, if you want.
Some super gaming tech. I know that's, I mean, GE Challenge is a fucking giga brain player because, I mean, you see the Bofa Bandos method where the whole thing is relying on flinching. I mean, you're literally just running underneath it repeatedly. Just clicking on the altar and then clicking on the door.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just repeatedly being flinched. It's like, damn. Yeah, no, it's fascinating trying. One of the fears, I mean, because now we have these kind of like systems in play where everyone's just kind of used to like how the game functions. It's all like just super glitchy and stuff. But when you try to take that away, like when they were trying to take away Red-X from Baba, it's just frustrating as hell. Like you can't do it now. Like you do not do that.
Brought back PTSD. They did not take away Red-X from Baba. They took away Red-X from the entire game.
Oh yeah, that was it. But we noticed it all at Baba because we were all stuck at ToA.
Yeah. And then I'm not giving that JMod shit, but like one of the JMods were like, I don't remember who. They were like, maybe we'll keep it this way. And like, I was losing my mind, man.
Yeah, you can't do that now. Like, and the thing is, it's like, it would be different if it felt better to get rid of it. And we've just kind of been used to it, but it feels like shit getting rid of it. It's just, now we're just playing more of an RNG game that just feels clunky. It feels clunkier.
You can get rid of it, I guess. Like, it's not like an intended mechanic, whatever. But like, this is not the way to get rid of it. You talk it out first. You apply. You give us alternatives rather than just like getting rid of a core mechanic in the game.
Yeah.
And then you decide if you're gonna remove it. Not like just, okay, I guess you guys can't do Baba anymore. Sorry.
There's just so many. It's like Red-Xing is genuinely an enjoyable mechanic, though. It adds so much depth.
At Baba or anywhere else?
Anywhere. I'm just thinking of like specifically God Wars Dungeon in general. Like there's so much Red-Xing now that's involved in these metas. I mean, even something simple like Thermi, like when you're scything Thermi, you just click on the door to Red-X and keeps Thermi still. It's actually just
nice
more
to not
enjoyable.
Have the boss randomly move around.
Yeah, I think that's it. Just it reduces RNG ultimately.
I think that is the main reason it was introduced anyway. So, or rather, like the bug wasn't, but like there was some patch that introduced it, such that bosses, I think what would happen if you clicked to attack a boss while you were under it, it could like keep pathing with you and you'd get stuck under it. Because like, you know, if it just keeps pathing with you in the same direction, you're not going to attack it, right?
Yeah.
I think that was like, they did some kind of patch to change that a long time ago.
Interesting.
And then it ended up in, like it resulted in this bug somehow. And then it stayed in the game ever since.
Okay, that is interesting.
Yeah, very interesting story.
Here's a random topic from Trader Stan. Flats or drums?
Oh, am I going to be uncultured and saying, what are those?
So those are like chicken wings. Like when you're eating chicken wings, the drums or the flats? Like what do you prefer?
Drums.
Really?
Gotta bite into that thing.
Yeah. No, this is kind of an interesting, because I actually am a mixture, I feel like. I feel like I need both. Because if I just had one, I'd get bored of it. I need both.
Why flats?
Flats are nice because I feel like they're saucier. Like when you get a saucy wing, like they're just...
Yeah, but like consider this, like you could marinate the chicken beforehand.
Yeah, no, like for sure. For some reason, I guess the experiences I've had with flats, they always seem to be more flavorful. I don't know why, but I guess it's all just emotion based. Like this is
also, are you thinking like grilled chicken or like fried chicken?
Just any sort of I mean, it doesn't matter, but I'm just thinking wings in particular. Just
gotcha.
But I need the variety, I think, because I think I ultimately lean on what you're saying, like drums. Drums are
Yeah.
better. You get a more meaty bite, but
It has the better texture.
yeah. No, that's the difference. I actually think flats have a better texture. But it's hard to, I don't know. But I have a fucking massive beard now going and a massive mustache going, so like I think drums are actually the way to go. I don't make as much of a mess. I'm gonna shower either way because I got a full-on shower after I eat now. But yeah, drums are probably the way to go.
Facial hair problems, all right.
It is a problem. It's genuinely a problem.
I am very hairy myself. So, yeah, I feel fucking Middle Eastern genetics.
Yep. Okay, so the rest of these topics, it sounds like we've already sort of covered just through talking. So I want to ask you, is there anything that you want to discuss before we kind of wrap things up and give some shout outs?
Oh, let me look through my notes. I think I already sent you them, so.
Yeah.
Probably not. Just something that was in my mind before. Man, it would have been so cool if they actually went through with the prayer book, like delayed the quest a little bit. That's still like a itch that I have.
Yeah, and there still is a chance. I mean, there still is.
No, but the thing is, if they released it with the quest, like that was gonna be the end reward for the quest, and it would have been so cool. Like, have you played any RS3 or RS2?
No.
Okay.
Well, I played RS2, but
have you done this Temple at Sentiston quest where you unlock curses?
No, I was a total giga noob back then.
Same, but I did an RS3 recently, and
okay.
The place you unlock it, like once you go down there, it's at the end of the quest. You know, like the place where you kill the skeletons at Fossil Island. Not Fossil Island, like the dig site.
Oh yeah,
it's really close to there, like the Slayer spot. Anyway, you go down the winch, and then like, what's his face? Like communes with Azanadra communes with like Zaros at the end, and then like at the end, you can see like a cutscene where they're like praying. And then you finally like unlock the curses, and like you have the Zaros motif playing in the background. It's just so cool, and so that's exactly what plays too at the end of Desert Treasure 2. It's the Zaros motif, and like I'm pretty sure the first teleport option on that ring was supposed to be where you swap to curses.
Damn, and we just didn't get that.
Yeah, such a shame.
That's
so
fair.
Cool.
That's fair. Yeah,
I'm excited for quests.
DT2, I mean, definitely scrapping that. Like, that definitely was a huge blow to, like, the reward space. It felt a little bit lackluster. Like, especially the Soulreaper Axe not being super crazy. I feel like as soon as that gets a buff, it's going to feel a little bit better, but it's really just ring upgrades.
I hope so. Damn corporate deadlines.
Yeah, that too. Okay, Saxerpillar, I greatly appreciate your time today. This was fun. I want to kind of wrap things up with getting 3 shout outs from you, from the community.
Shout out Joe Watermelon, because he was on earlier and he said I should shout him out, and it's like courtesy apparently to shout out whoever's on previously. Handsome man, very, very nice, and good gamer. I know Scott was on as well, but I haven't really watched him, not gonna lie. I'm sure he's very handsome too.
He's very handsome. They're both.
Shout out No Monkey. He has been my longtime friend, and I probably wouldn't have been here today without him. Really appreciate him. One more shout out. Fuck. Shout out all the boys in Tumor Time. That's my little Discord I'm in.
Hell yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna give an additional shout out to No Monkey. He's definitely one of the most entertaining high-level PvMers out there. Just super, super great streams. Super great guy as well. Just super highly entertaining and just awesome guy.
Hell yeah.
All right, Saxerpillar, thank you very much. Down in the description, boys, we're going to have Saxerpillar's Twitter down there. Do you have any other like links you'd want linked? I'll have your YouTube as well. Yeah,
YouTube and Twitter. That's about it.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Sounds good. Guys, go down in the description. Drop him a subscription on his YouTube for me. And also, if you guys want to support the cast, there is a Patreon and YouTube membership link. You can support the cast. And next Tuesday, we're actually going to be having Noob Type on the cast, which I'm very, very excited for. Should be a good one. So back-to-back gamer, actually back-to-back. How many back-to-back gamer PvM gamers have we had? But I'm really excited for that one. So stay tuned. And Saxerpillar, thank you once again for your time today.
Shout out Noob Type.
Shout out. All All right, guys.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yep, my pleasure. We'll catch you in the next one, boys.